CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. We hope that you are all hearing us on We Act Radio, 1480 AM WPWC in Washington, D.C. Thanks for checking out Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are a weekly, proudly liberal, progressive show. We like to square the facts, mock the crazies, and inform everyone so that you can all think before you vote. We like to cover a few news stories every morning that either aren't getting enough attention or perhaps need to be followed a little closer. And here's what we found this week. First off, Ohio Senate candidate Josh Mandel, apparently, the anti-abortion, anti-women, pro-war stance wasn't good enough. Now he's also standing for repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Yes, Josh Mandel, Ohio Senate candidate, would like to ban gay men and women from serving in the military. Definitely sounds like the type of gentleman we need to elect. I don't know how many people know about Josh Mandel, but he is a, quote, young and upcoming name in the Republican Party. He's quite young. And apparently he wants to be ultra-conservative, to join the party, get ahead of the issues. So good job on you, Josh Mandel. All those statistics that show men and women serving openly had absolutely no effect on our national safety or the cohesiveness of the military, apparently are written in a language you don't understand. And in other news, ICE officials have officially broken a promise to refrain from arresting undocumented people in the presence of their children and their schools.
Nice. Wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
Now, how are they doing this?
They are literally following people to schools as they drop off their children and arresting them in front of their loved ones, as well as all of the school administrators.
Do we know where this directive to do this type of tactic is coming from?
No, we don't. In fact, it's directly contrary to Obama's directive, which was to focus on criminals, not people here simply trying to feed their family. However, George Hernandez and Hector Orozco Villa were detained at elementary schools. Mr. Hernandez was detained in front of his 4-year-old daughter's school with his daughter and wife in the car. Hector Villa was detained near the elementary school after dropping off his child and remains detained. Good job, ICE officials. That certainly sounds like the type of hardcore criminals we need to be worrying about. And in voter disenfranchisement news, a Pennsylvania utility company has now taken sending out the wrong voter ID information to a whole new level. They have sent incorrect voter ID information to 1.3 million customers in 7 Pennsylvania counties.
What? I hadn't heard this story.
Yeah. It's a newsletter put out by PECO, P-E-C-O, Pennsylvania's biggest utility company, that is continuing to distribute the information that Pennsylvania voters need an ID in order to vote. Great job. Absolutely great job. And better yet, even though they admit that the printing was, quote-unquote, a mistake, they refuse to stop sending it. They simply say, oh, well, we can't get a new one from the printer in time. Nice. And it gets even...
Well, can't they just say to the printer, stop?
They could stop mailing them.
Yeah.
But their reasoning is that the newsletter contains very important information that customers need to know, which includes information on utility audits and how to make donations to its matching energy funds.
Ah, there's the
Exactly.
reason.
Very, very important information like a discount for the local museum. Pico, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, will send out corrected information. However, its next billing cycle doesn't start till October 29th, meaning voters will receive it after Election Day. Great job, Pennsylvania. I guess the wrong information on the websites, billboards, television ads, etc. wasn't enough to disenfranchise voters. Now power companies have to get involved. And it just so happens that the energy company's CEO, Dennis Bryan, has contributed to the campaigns of major Senate Majority Leader Dominique Pileggi, who was a key force in enacting the voter ID law, and has also made contributions to House Leader Mike Turzai, who is the one who...
Oh, yes.
Yes, who was quoted that they would deliver the state for Romney. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
Voter ID, which is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done.
Yeah. That Mike Turzai. I'm sure those donations from his company or his friend's company had no play at all in this situation. And, you know, because Arizona never wants to be left out on disenfranchising people,
yeah,
good old Maricopa County has also tried to swing the vote. Apparently they're going to deliver the state for Romney by sending out the wrong election date on Spanish versions of the voter registration cards.
Now, Maricopa County, I recognize that name.
That would be the county where good old Joe Arpaio and yes, and
America's sheriff, according to Fox So-Called News.
Exactly, who has stood behind the valiant Show Me Your Papers laws and is responsible for imprisoning people in outdoor prison camps in the Arizona sun and heat. Yeah, sounds like a great guy. Maricopa County has handed out over-the-counter cards at the office with the wrong date. So this means not only did they have the wrong date printed, but election officials had the chance to review them, make sure they were correct, and handed them out anyway. And I simply do not care that the cards were printed in Spanish. I would assume somebody at that facility reads Spanish, and regardless of what language you speak, a number 8 does not ever look like a number 6. They knew that this was wrong. They're saying it's only...
I have a question for you. Was it written in the word as an ocho, or was it the Arabic numeral? It's got to be an ocho as opposed to seis, correct?
Yes, but it's the number. I mean, look at your...
Of course.
Yeah, it's the Arabic number.
Meaning the two circles on top of one another?
Yes.
So it's not even a language thing?
Right.
Wow. I didn't know that part of the story.
Right.
Whoa.
And they're trying to tell people that this has only occurred about 50 times or has been handed out to 50 voters.
Yeah, because they do their mailings in bulk 50. Mm-hmm.
Right. My family used to own a printing company, and when you print in large volumes, you certainly don't have 50 that just have a different number on them.
Were they hand-dressed?
Yes, exactly.
No wonder the budget's through the roof over there. It isn't because the prison's out in the desert. It's because they have somebody who's literally writing out all the votes.
They were written in crayon. Yeah. Good job, Maricopa County. What a way to get out the vote.
Yikes.
And a couple of stories that are very important given the upcoming debate on Monday, being focused on foreign policy. One, although mostly domestic policy, has a big impact on foreign affairs. And that's gun ownership and gun rights in this country, especially after we saw the Fast and Furious scandal that Fox is still focusing on. However, all that talk of Obama wanting to take your gun rights away, well, that's in fact quite the opposite. The number of gun dealers in this country has actually increased by 3,000 dealers under Obama. It's the first time since 1993, so note to self, a decade ago, it's the first time that the number of licensed gun dealers has actually increased by such a substantial margin. As of October 2012, the number of gun dealers were 50,812 licensed dealers in this country, which is an increase of 3,303 gun dealers since Obama was elected. Now, we can certainly criticize our wonderful president on this one for allowing more guns to get into the hands of people who most likely don't need them. But we can also contribute a lot of this to the scare tactics from the NRA and the right-wing groups that continue to say Obama's trying to take your guns away.
I actually saw a new NRA ad on the TV machine last night during, I think it was football, of all things. I don't know if you've seen it, Danielle, but instead of, because they can't even pass the laugh test saying that Obama wants to take away your guns, they're putting the question out there, do you want more justices like Obama would pick that would take away your guns? Right. Kind of the degrees of separation.
Well, anybody who's taken...
And they support that great varmint shooter, who, by the way, I actually probably have the clip of Romney on gun laws. Oh, yes, here, in fact, I do.
We do have tough gun laws in Massachusetts. I support them.
How about that?
Yeah, he supports them. And Paul Ryan, don't forget, I don't know if we have that clip a few weeks ago, came out and said that the best way to prevent gun crime is to increase the economic situation in the area because people just need to have more, what did he say, self-respect?
Respect and self-control or something incredibly insulting.
Right. That's the best way to deal with gun laws. Although that is a domestic issue, we know that guns are often brought across the border, especially the border to the south of us with Mexico. And so I do think that is an international issue. I think it should be covered in this next debate simply because it really has not been fully addressed in any of the other ones. So we're going to come right back after this break. Thank you very much to anybody who's checking out the show over on We Act Radio in Washington, D.C. Welcome to Talking Left. We'll be right back with more after this break. Stick around.
Whoa! Awesome! Totally awesome! All right!
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Okay, astronaut, you're up. You'll be meeting with Wish Kid Brandon.
Roger, Brandon.
His wish is to see a space shuttle launch.
All systems are go. We are clear for liftoff.
This year, more than 27,000 children will be diagnosed with a life-threatening medical condition.
And, Cowboy?
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be meeting with Shayla at a dude ranch in San Antonio.
Let's saddle up.
Some will miss school. Some will miss time with their family and friends.
Princess, are you here?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for rescuing me from that evil witch.
Juliana wishes for a princess-themed room makeover.
That sounds magical.
But with your help, the Make-A-Wish Foundation can lift their spirits and give them a special kind of hope.
Pirate!
Yar!
You're up for Isaac's wish.
Aye, aye, Captain.
The wishes of thousands of children are waiting to come true.
You can help make my wish happen. Visit wish.org today.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and I have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
Hello, my name is Antonio Ford from A Plus Fitness. I've been studying foods, nutrition, and the anatomy of the body for well over 23 years. One thing about an animal-based diet is it kills people in every bite. It kills you by restricting blood and oxygen from flowing freely throughout your arteries, thus causing all kinds of life-threatening health problems and issues. If you want the blueprint for healthy eating, stay tuned to We Act Radio for more information, or contact us at aplus.fitness@yahoo.com. Again, that's aplus.fitness@yahoo.com, or give us a call at area code 202-903-6323. Remember, it's one bite at a time.
Hank Action News is proud to be sponsored by Healthcare for America Now. HCAN is a national coalition of more than 1,000 groups in 50 states, representing 30 million people. HCAN works to promote, defend, implement, and improve the Affordable Care Act at both the state and federal levels. They also try to protect Medicare and Medicaid, increase corporate accountability, and confront forces that seek to take away critical services. HCAN believes in creating jobs, not cutting programs people depend on. HCAN runs comprehensive issue campaigns that mobilize people at the grassroots and define the public debate. HCAN is fighting to protect, implement, and improve the new health care law through national and state-based legislative and regulatory campaigns built on grassroots action, public education, communications, policy analysis, and groundbreaking research. HCAN has become a respected voice and national leader on health care while continuing to focus on aggressive field activity. Support HCAN, Healthcare for America Now.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are so very excited this morning to be over the airways on We Act Radio, 1480 AM WPWC. Thank you to anybody. Thank you to anybody who's checking out the show live on air in Washington, D.C.
And I want to give a big shout out to one of the biggest job creator risk takers out there that I love, and that would be Alex.
Absolutely. I was just getting to that.
Those are job creator and risk takers because we're on the air over airwaves. Uh-oh.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Alex Lawson, Kimon Freeman, and the wonderful help and support of Pete Callahan, who is tirelessly working to keep things running at We Act, and he does a fine job, and we're very, very lucky to have his help and support. We have a big show coming up for you this morning. Great guests. Matthew Filipowicz, I can never say his name correctly, of course, We Act Radio. He does the Matthew Filipowicz Show there. We're going to have him on in just a few minutes here, along with David Bender later in the show, the political director of Progressive Voices, and John Fugelsang, of course, of Comedy Jesus, and the new
Current
show.
TV.
Yes, the new show, So That Happened, on Current Television. We are very excited.
Every Friday.
Yes.
6 and 9.
6 to 9 p.m.
6 and 9.
Yes, p.m. Eastern, 3 to 6, 3 and 6 p.m. Pacific. So we are very, very excited to have such a big show on our first debut here on We Act Radio. Of course, many people have been listening to us online, via podcast, via YouTube for quite some time, and we're really glad that you guys are also there to help and support us.
And we are still on all those, Radio or Not,
Absolutely.
SoFlo Radio, Progressive Blend.
Yep.
So
all of our home sweet homes.
All of our friends are still there.
Yes. We're going to be talking to Matthew in just a few minutes about the debates, about the debate that, of course, we saw last week where Obama seemed to maybe have some coffee before he joined the debate. Actually woke up a little bit, had a much greater performance than the first debate. And about
he was napping during the first. He was nice and rested, as he said at the Al Smith dinner.
Yes. As he said at the Al Smith dinner, he was nice and rested from that long nap he got during the first debate. And about takes on the upcoming debate Monday. One more story we didn't get to from the news, something else that we really hope is covered, is the drone war. This is a big issue for many progressives and probably some Republicans alike, that essentially we are waging war in so many countries, so many sovereign nations, without their acknowledgement or sometimes even their them being aware.
We're not even at war with the country itself.
Right.
We're just dropping bombs. I don't know. If someone dropped a bomb somewhere within our
I think we'd be a little upset about it.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
I would.
Well, be prepared for it to get worse. Even though the drone program has severely hurt our reputation with many sovereign nations around the world, the CIA is actually asking to expand the program. They are urging the White House to increase by a, quote, significant expansion the Army's fleet of unmanned drones.
You know what concerns me about this if it were brought up in the debate?
What's that?
I think it'd be a lot like the oil discussion. You know, I have more drones.
Yeah.
No, I bomb more.
I'm
I
gonna
bomb more.
bomb more.
I kill
I'm
more
gonna
terrorists.
bomb.
No, I'm going to
Yeah.
kill more terrorists.
Yeah, it was a lot like that. I think it would be a lot like the oil discussion.
Yeah.
My gut instinct is that this will not be asked because it's such a sensitive issue or at least that's their excuse for not asking it. It's such a sensitive issue on both sides. There's no way.
Those are exactly the questions that should be asked.
Absolutely. I think not only the American people, but those foreign sovereign nations that we're bombing may want to know the incoming president or Obama's views on how this program is going to be handled. It's already been quoted to take the lives of many, many, many innocent civilians at the expense of, that they possibly killed a terrorist here and there. We have no proof of that. We have no way to know if the guy that got blown up is, the guy that they meant to blow up. So something I would love to see covered. Perhaps Matthew will join us in a few minutes and have an opinion on that. We'll be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and our great first guest on We Act Radio, Matthew Filipowicz. We'll be right back.
A beautiful place full of wonderful things just waiting to be experienced.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
We should not be surprised that a magazine named Fortune would be empathetic to the feelings of the 1%. But good grief, how embarrassingly sycophantish are the editors to hustle out a piece just before the presidential election entitled, "Stop Beating Up the Rich." Written by Nina Easton, the timing of Fortune's article was less than fortunate, for it came out just as the infamous video surfaced showing Mitt Romney beating up the poor and the middle class, while his audience of fellow multimillionaires laughed, cheered, and shouted encouragement. Despite the timing, Mitt and company undoubtedly appreciated the writer's disdain for those who so insolently dared to criticize and even demonize those worthy ones at the top who, as she explained, gained their wealth through their own efforts. Also, you can almost hear the rich applaud appreciatively as she scorns the divide between the 1% and the rest of us as a, quote, flawed prism marred by hyperbole, half-truths, and unnecessary pessimism about what it means to succeed in America. Passionately deploring diatribes against the 1%, Miss Easton assails critics of America's widening inequality as being people who want to raid the gold pot. On behalf of the pampered rich, she issues her own emotional grito, wailing that critics must stop the name-calling. Does Easton propose any specific remedies for the rising inequality that's shutting out the many? You betcha, and it just happens to be one that's a favorite of Mitt and the Millionaires Club, one that they prescribe for any and all of our nation's economic woes. Corporate tax reform. This is Jim Hightower saying, it's unclear why Fortune felt the need to print this piece of fluff or why Easton got the assignment, but her credit line does mention that her husband is, quote, senior strategist for the Romney campaign. Curious, huh?
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. Senator Dick Durbin visited Bainport Tuesday. Jesse Russell reports.
Workers in Freeport, Illinois continued their encampment and blockade outside of a Sensata factory. Dubbed Bainport, the workers are asking Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney to ask Bain Capital to reconsider moving their jobs to China. Romney is a 51% shareholder in Bain, which he helped found in the early 80s. On Tuesday, the workers were visited by Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, telling the workers there is a solution to help stop the flow of jobs from the U.S. to China, waiting in Washington.
We could pass the Bring Jobs Home to America Act. It's an important bill. It's an important bill. 6 years ago, I introduced it. Last 2 or 3 years, it's been Senator Debbie Stabenow of Michigan. Michigan knows this story pretty well. And here's what it says. If you're going to create a tax code, your tax code ought to have the right values in it.
Durbin said it's time to start rewarding companies that choose to stay on American soil and create American jobs.
Companies that believe in this country, believe in our workers, believe in our families, will give you the tax break to stay in America.
More than 25,000 activists on RootsAction.org are demanding President Obama and Congress commit to not cutting a dime from Social Security and Medicare. The activists say so far 29 U.S. senators have committed not to cut Social Security. Obama so far has refused to commit to not cutting Social Security and Medicare. In fact, he's willing to accept cuts to both programs. A strong majority of Americans, though, oppose making any cuts to those two programs. Social Security is fully funded for many years to come. Removing the cap on payroll taxes for the wealthiest could guarantee Social Security funding with no cuts in benefits. Senator Bernie Sanders has introduced legislation to do that. Both Social Security and Medicare could be fully funded and even expanded without cutting any benefits if politicians decide to represent the will of the American people on those issues. The National Union of Healthcare Workers is suing SEIU, alleging assault and battery by SEIU UHW union stewards. The suit charges that on July 20th, over 24 SEIU UHW stewards surrounded NUHW Representative Gloria Watkins. The suit says they chanted and clapped in a hostile manner and then verbally and physically attacked Watkins with repeated elbow strikes to her torso. NUHW is trying to get SEIU members at Kaiser Permanente to leave SEIU and join the NUHW. NUHW says as the two unions compete for members, SEIU is allegedly engaging in a pattern of bullying. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
How high can you jump?
But you don't have to know every answer.
How many phone numbers are there?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
How do cell phones work?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
What's electricity?
They just need you.
What's the moon made of?
For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano on our proud debut on We Act Radio. Joining us now is the one, the only, Matthew Filipowicz of We Act Radio as well, and the Matthew Filipowicz Show. He is joining us on Skype, so he should sound crystal clear and golden. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us on our first terrestrial radio show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are absolutely thrilled to have you. You were on Take Action News with David Schuster last week, and your segment was so outrageously hilarious and awesome. I was a little jealous. I had to have you here as well.
I'm happy to be here. Hopefully I can bring some of that hilarity to your show as well. I'll do my best. I hope I don't let you down.
Well, I'm sure you won't. Matthew, first and foremost, tell everybody listening about your show and, of course, which they can check out Saturdays from 8 to 10 a.m. Is that correct?
It is correct. It is on We Act Radio every Saturday, 8 to 10. It is the creatively titled Matthew Filipowicz Show. Thankfully, it wasn't taken. You know, and like you said, a lot of people get you got my name mostly right in the first segment, and so I appreciate that. I do have a phenomenally ridiculous name. Even I pronounce it wrong sometimes. It is a ridiculous name. So again, I am very used to people. But you did very well. You got it right. So thank you very much, Danielle.
Yeah, well, I am notorious for mispronouncing normal words on a regular basis, misquoting movies, music. It's kind of my thing. So I was just sticking with that.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. So you had a great take on the first debate, and I don't think I have heard your take on the most recent one where Obama came out swinging. What are your thoughts on on how Obama performed?
Well, Obama obviously did better this time. Like Shane said, he had a nap, I believe, so he didn't seem exhausted and out of it. You know, but if you'll remember the first presidential debate, on the first one, Think Progress found that Mitt Romney lied 27 times in the debate. They then found that Paul Ryan lied 24 times in the vice presidential debate, which shows why Romney's the president and Paul Ryan's the vice president.
Right.
So on this last Tuesday, Think Progress found that Mitt Romney lied 31 times in the debate, beating his previous record of 27 lies and 7 more than Paul Ryan's lies. So I've said this before. These debates are 90 minutes long, and with 31 lies, Mitt Romney has officially gone over the 1 lie every 3 minutes ratio, and Mitt Romney is improving his lying ratio, and that's really what you want to see in a candidate, and I guess a person in general, someone who is dedicated to doing a better job today than they did yesterday. You know, someone who wants to make the little improvements. and right now you see it. Mitt Romney has more lies per minute. He has a true dedication to fabrication. And so we're going to have to see coming up next week if Mitt Romney breaks the 31 lie ratio. I personally am confident that he can break that because the truth is, being a good deal about being a true lying champion is momentum, and lying momentum is truly on Mitt's side right now.
Absolutely. And with the debate being about foreign policy, which he exclusively knows nothing about and has such a wonderful reputation overseas, I can only imagine the doozies he's going to come out with this upcoming week.
You know, it's true. And what's funny is, like, so obviously, you know, Romney's, you know, famous binders full of women clip was the big kind of gaffe thing where it became several memes, which it's, you know, it's impressive if you can create a meme. You know, everyone wants to be a meme. But actually, the thing that got me, what he said right after the binders thing actually, I think, bothered me a little bit more. He actually said that flexible time for women was good because then the women could go home and cook for their families. I actually thought that was more insulting than the binders thing, because that's what women need to do, right? They need to go home and cook, because that's what women are all for. He also took the issue of gun control. He took that as an opportunity to attack single mothers. You know, his attitude towards women was just overly condescending and horrible. And, you know, obviously, you know, again, I'm not a giant fan of Obama. I want Obama to beat Romney, but I'm not someone who looks at Obama and thinks, man, you know, he's doing such an amazing job. But, you know, obviously there's a difference on women's issues where Obama is much better than Romney. You know, while Obama certainly did have a better showing in this debate, I actually thought the true loser of the debate wasn't actually Mitt Romney. Shano actually said it a little bit. I actually think the true loser was the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is the third of the fourth debates. I don't think it's going to get mentioned in the next one, where the words climate change or global warming were not mentioned once by either candidate or moderator. You know, this is literally the greatest challenge our planet and species faces. And so while climate change wasn't even mentioned, the second debate did actually feature this really fierce battle between Romney and Obama, but it wasn't about who had a better plan in addressing climate change. No. It was about Mitt Romney and Barack Obama arguing about who loves big oil more.
Yeah, I think we have the audio of exactly what you're talking about, just in case anybody missed that debate. Shane?
Production on government land is down. No, it isn't. Production on government land of oil is down 14%, and production on gas is down 9%.
It's just not true.
It's absolutely true.
I love any time that we can have a, I don't know if that word is acceptable for radio, a peeing contest, if you will, between two men trying to see who can ruin the planet faster and more than the other candidate. Good job, guys.
No, exactly. And look, I feel horrible doing this. I would so much love if I could just make fun of Mitt Romney. My life would be so much easier, but I'm sorry, Democrats. I wish it wasn't true. Barack Obama has opened up more drilling than George W. Bush. Yes. Much, much more. The reason it was down a little bit last year, but not historically from Obama's previous year, was because of a little thing called the BP oil spill. Do you guys remember that? That was a little story.
Yeah,
it got a little bit of coverage.
Having just moved from Florida, it was rather relevant to me down there. April 20th, 2010, and, lasted for only 4 months. We had oil spewing into the Gulf. It does cut down on production a little bit when they can't drill new holes because, they can't be out there next to the dispersants that are being pumped into the water. Just FYI.
But of course, now actually Obama's actually opened up more of the Gulf for more spills. And like, was BP mentioned at all at the debate? Was this monumental environmental disaster mentioned at all? It's really just a matter of time before the next Gulf oil spill. There was another disgusting moment where the two candidates were arguing not about who loves oil more, but who loves coal more.
Yes.
Obama attacked Romney because when Romney was governor of Massachusetts, Obama said that he stood in front of a coal plant and pointed at the coal plant and said, "This plant kills," and he said that Romney took great pride in shutting it down. I'll tell you what, guys, I would consider voting for that Mitt Romney. That Mitt Romney sounds awesome. The one who points at a coal plant and says, "Coal kills, and I'm going to shut down this dirty, filthy coal plant." I would vote for that Mitt Romney. Of course, we know that's not really who Mitt Romney is. Mitt Romney doesn't believe in anything other than, I think, money. I think that's the only thing Romney really believes. But, it's not that Obama was attacking him on that by saying, you know what, as Governor Mitt Romney, you were correct. Coal does kill. No. He was just pointing out that Mitt Romney's a hypocrite. And, again, that's probably the easiest thing you could possibly do is point out that Mitt Romney is a hypocrite. He has 50 different, 50 different stances on the same issue over and over again.
I keep waiting for the debate between old Mitt Romney and new Mitt Romney because I think those are the pressing issues we really need to talk about. Old Mitt Romney, nationalized health care, pro-abortion, pro-women's rights, pro-clean energy. I would vote for that guy. Totally stand behind him and support that candidate. But unfortunately, he doesn't exist.
Maybe next week we'll have that.
He doesn't. I live in Massachusetts, and I got to tell you, Romney Care is pretty awesome here. It's pretty good. Obviously he doesn't want it for the entire country, but as someone who lives in Massachusetts, Romney Care is pretty great. Getting back to the climate change thing, though, what I actually found was another really telling moment because again, most of these debates are so choreographed. It's really just about who's going to say something a little different, who's going to give a dirty look or something. It's really not about substance. But I actually thought that this whole segment was the only part that was really substantive. And Romney actually said that voters just don't believe that Barack Obama is a supporter of big oil. And I actually think he's really right. And that's actually a problem because obviously the right wing, no matter if Obama opened up every single inch of America to drilling, the right wing would not believe that Obama is a fan of big oil. And the thing is, I don't think Democrats, no matter what Obama does on this, there's a certain percentage of Democrats that just flat out will not believe that Obama is drilling more than George W. Bush. There's a certain percentage of Democrats that flat out do not believe that Obama has actually been horrible when it comes to his coddling of big oil.
Well, the interesting part, and this is very similar to many big corporations holding on to investment money, not hiring when really they should, the same is going for big oil. They're holding on to a lot of permits right now that have been issued. They have been allowed to drill, and they're not doing it. So the fact that oil production and oil drilling has increased, which where both of us stand on that in and of itself, but the fact that it has increased is amazing given big oil trying to make Obama look bad. Likewise with unemployment, unemployment has gone down despite these large corporations being obstructionist and holding the economy hostage in order to hurt Obama. Both of those statistics have what some people would say improved, obviously improved on unemployment, questionable about whether more drilling is an improvement, but both of them have moved in that direction despite the companies trying to prevent it.
It really does sum up the Obama presidency in my mind, where Obama does these horrible capitulations to right-wing interests, and he's just constantly trying to get them to like him. And no matter what he does, they're not going to like him. And again, we could try to psychoanalyze why he does that. I don't know. Part of me thinks it's probably he really does believe in drilling. I have no evidence to counter that. And here's the thing that's so sad about this whole entire thing is, again, no one on the right is ever going to believe that Obama doesn't hate big oil, and no matter what anything he does, they're going to despise him on it. And so he's doing horrible policy and horrible politics to appease us, these rich people, this rich oil corporations that are making record profits. And again, I always think it's so crazy, just the general argument that we need to drill more, with that whole drill baby drill mentality. And it's not like any of us are going to actually really reap the benefits of that. I mean, it's not like that any of us are like, we're just going to get a gallon or two of oil delivered to our front door or something like that. It's not like we're getting the oil. We're not getting the oil. These are multinational oil corporations. These are not American corporations. These are multinational companies that are taking their profits. Hell, the tar sands pipeline, the Keystone dirty oil pipeline that Obama is probably going to approve is actually for export. It's actually not for us.
Yeah.
That oil is not going to us. It's not going to even the people. It is going to be exported to China and Russia. It is not going to Americans. There is no such thing as an us when it comes to oil.
Right. And I wish more people would understand that, but they could certainly get a jump on that argument and understand much more if they listen to the Matthew Filipowicz Show on a regular basis. Matthew, you certainly did not fail to disappoint on how awesome you are. So thank you so much for joining us on our first We Act Radio show, our We Act Radio family now. Everybody should check out your show on weactradio.com, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturdays, and check out your site, matthewf.net. Follow you on Twitter, Matt Filipowicz, and if you can spell it, then you deserve Matt's awesome tweets, but it will be up with the blog post after the show. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it was a great time. Thanks so much, Danielle.
Absolutely. Have a great show. He's awesome. I like him. I like somebody that fiery, especially this early in the morning.
No doubt.
We should have him on every week just to wake us up.
Yeah, well, you have to think about that then. 8 a.m. on Saturdays, that'll get you going.
Seriously.
That will get you going.
Anybody can have that much energy at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, deserves some type of award.
Yep, I agree.
We're going to go ahead and run to a break here, and we will be back on We Act Radio, SoFlo Radio, RadioOrNot.com, wherever you may be listening. We'll be back in just a few minutes with much more show. So don't go anywhere. This is me, Danielle, and Shano. You're listening to Talking Left. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. And this is Talking Left.
Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiosstations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiosstations.com. Be sure to like Left-Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiosstations.com. United we stand.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from bradblog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of bradblog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m. right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
How do you impart upon somebody the disconnect or what's otherwise known as hypocrisy that people have, that they deny themselves from? They live in denial and live in the illusion.
You can't tell somebody they're wrong. They have to see it themselves.
Yeah, they have to discover for themselves how to think that way. So how do you plant the inception?
Filter-free radio, Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not, and filterfreeradio.com.
Arty, mateys! Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the seven seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now I be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? A plastic bag! By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? Cannons. All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
SoFloRadio.com remains on the air with free archives thanks to the support of our listeners. Help keep us on the air by clicking the donate button on SoFloRadio.com. And thank you for your generous support.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are very proud to be on the airwaves in Washington, D.C. this morning, 1480 AM WPWC on We Act Radio and, of course, weactradio.com. We were just speaking with Matthew Filipowicz, another We Act Radio host who does his show, the Matthew Filipowicz Show. I am just jumbling all my words together this morning. But one thing he mentioned while speaking with him was something we really wanted to talk about this morning, and that was the lack of discussion during the debates of global climate change. We have heard so many of the really, really greatest, strongest scientists come out recently and say how pressing this issue is right now. Anybody who watched Bill Maher heard about pesticides being used that are half Agent Orange. Of course, we've heard, his name is escaping me. Oh my goodness. I had it written down and I have so many papers in front of me. Bill McKibben. Bill McKibben's reports recently about how serious this problem is, yet in a discussion of the highest national significance and also international significance, we heard nothing about it. I know, Shane, this was also a concern of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is that both economic plans are so hinged, and both candidates are so indebted to larger corporations that rely on all of this. It's a further reflection of money in politics. It's, the only time I've heard of climate change spoken about this entire, really, election season is when Mitt Romney mocked the rising tides in the convention. So it was brought up at some point in a dismissive, arrogant way.
Right. There was no discussion of our food supply safety, the safety of clean drinking water, of the disturbing effects of nuclear energy like we're seeing in Japan with the Fukushima incident.
But there's lots of talk about somebody who's 4 years closer just because 4 years have elapsed to getting a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying nuclear weapons aren't dangerous, but this is much more real.
Absolutely. The devastation that the problems we're facing can have is monumental. We're seeing crop prices rise because of droughts and overwhelming heat in the Midwest, and we have idiot, I guess Congress people who was it that came out and said, well, if we can't plant crops in the Midwest, that we'll just move our food regions. Do you remember who said that?
No idea. Did not hear it.
Wow.
Chat room will know.
Yeah, but that's the kind of ridiculous take that we're hearing on global climate change. There was no discussion of ice caps melting, no discussion of, our dying oceans, none of it. It was completely left off the playing field, and it's an issue that is important to so many people on the right and the left. This whole notion that everybody on the right denies climate change is simply ridiculous. It's like support for gay marriage or women's healthcare rights. They use it as an issue, as if everybody in their party lines up against those issues, but they don't. The overwhelming majority of the country supports people, gay marriage, supports efforts to correct global climate change, supports a woman having the right to choose. They make it an issue simply for campaign dollars.
Right, and there's been a concerted effort for years on the part of the Fox News to go out there and dispute based on they essentially lied about a few scientists. The scientists were clear, and they just leave the lie out there and keep repeating it. The typical Fox effect. So that the people who actually are dubious of climate change are, one, people who stand to profit off of it and just don't care, or two, people who have been duped by Fox.
Right. When you have scientists who work for Exxon as the leading voice that climate change doesn't exist, there may be a problem there. They're just saying. They may also have a bridge to sell you.
Yeah, with dirty water all around it.
Exactly. Hopefully we'll hear something about it in the next debate. I highly doubt it because of the foreign policy subject matter, but we can press for it.
It can come up in terms of foreign policy because the right's constant reaction to reducing carbon emissions is, well, our trading people around the world won't do that. They're the ones really polluting the air, and we'll become uncompetitive, and therefore we're all going to perish a low economic death.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not an international issue, then ask the people in California how they feel about all of that Fukushima debris.
Issue.
Yeah, exactly.
So foreign policy isn't just about wars. Foreign policy is about peace. It is about working out agreements about human rights.
Yeah, about foreign aid.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're going to get more into the debate and exactly how Romney gets around so many specific issues. Parses his words very carefully. So don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, on We Act Radio.
It's Tuesday, October 16, 2012.
I like coal. I'm going to make sure we can continue to burn clean coal.
We've got to look at the energy sources of the future, like wind and solar and biofuels.
Debating the future, contrasting the candidates on energy.
Today, thanks to some great work by Ken Salazar, we've got 16 solar projects approved, and that's progress.
Fast-tracking solar energy on public lands. Car battery maker goes bankrupt. Plus, it's official. September 2012 was the hottest month ever.
Ever?
Yes, ever.
All of that and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We do not need alternative energy any more than we need alternative lifestyles. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and wind turbine.
This is your Green News Report.
Watch that blade, buddy.
Okay, Taz, we took a week off, and I came back with a horrible cold.
Yes.
So I'm going to shut up and let you drive the ship today.
All right, we got a lot coming up, but first...
Here are some things that we have not talked about.
There's been no discussion of global warming.
That was Tom Brokaw on Sunday's Meet the Press, noting that climate change has been completely absent from the debates, and that is unlikely to change with Tuesday's debate. Now, I've said it before, this is the worst debate drinking game ever, waiting for any mention of climate change. But that doesn't mean that there's no difference between the candidates. In the last 4 years, President Obama has mentioned the need to address climate change only a handful of times and has done little on reducing emissions. But GOP presidential candidate Mitt Romney, on the other hand, has completely flip-flopped on climate change. As Massachusetts governor, he signed on to the Northeast's Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. But now he says he doesn't even know if global warming is human cause. But the biggest policy contrasts between the two candidates are on taxpayer energy subsidies. Romney said in the first presidential debate that he would consider looking at maybe reducing taxpayer subsidies for the oil industry.
If we get that tax rate from 35% down to 25%, well, that $2.8 billion is on the table.
He said he'd consider it, but the only specific cut he's promised so far is to fire Big Bird. But hey, at least he's specific on something. Romney also promises to eliminate federal support for our domestic clean energy industry and increase drilling offshore and on all public lands. In contrast, unlike the millions of acres of public lands already devoted to oil and gas drilling, there were 0 solar projects on public lands prior to the Obama administration. In just 4 years, Obama has approved 16 new solar projects.
When I took office, I said, why not give these businesses some access to public lands that aren't otherwise being utilized? At the time, there wasn't a single solar project in place on public lands, not one. Today, thanks to some great work by Ken Salazar, we've got 16 solar projects approved. And that's progress. And yet, if some politicians had their way, there won't be any more public investment in solar energy. There won't be as many new jobs and new businesses.
And to further that goal, the Obama administration Interior Department announced a new policy on Friday that will streamline construction of large utility-scale solar energy projects on public lands in the West. The new plan will funnel future large-scale solar plants to 17 solar energy zones. These are pre-selected public lands that are said to have the highest solar potential, are already located close to existing power lines, and have the lowest environmental and wildlife impact. The zones cover about 450 square miles in total across 6 western states.
Is there a concern that if Romney were to win the White House, that we'd see something like we saw in 1980 when Ronald Reagan came into the White House and literally took down the solar panels off the White House roof that Jimmy Carter had put up there?
That is exactly the fear. Romney and Ryan have both said they are against renewing, say, the wind production energy tax credit that is actually causing layoffs in the wind industry right now. Consolidation is hitting the U.S. car battery industry. Innovative lithium-ion car battery maker A123, which used $132 million in grants from the Obama administration Department of Energy, has filed for bankruptcy on Monday and was immediately bought up by U.S.-based global auto supplier Johnson Controls, which says that both of its Michigan factories will continue production. The right-wing media is already pouncing on this. The good news is those jobs remain in the United States. And just a reminder, the planet doesn't do politics or pay attention to debates. It's official. Last month, September 2012, was the warmest month ever recorded on the planet. That's according to the National Climatic Data Center's monthly report. September 2012 is tied for warmest month ever with September 2005. Remember, that's when Hurricane Katrina hit.
I'm totally going to fire Big Bird. First, I need some tea, some green tea, of course. So why don't you take us out, Des?
For more on those stories and the ones we didn't get to, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. While you're there, consider sponsoring the Green News Report so we can buy Brad a few more cups of green tea. Download us on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Green News Report. From bradblog.com, I'm Desi Doyen.
And I'm Brad Friedman.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Well done.
It's not easy being green. It seems you blend in with so many other ordinary things. And people tend to pass you over. 'Cause you're not standing out like flashy sparkles on the water or stars in the sky. But green is the color of spring.
CNN
ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. This is, of course, our terrestrial radio debut on We Act Radio. But we do thank anybody who's checking us out on one of our online stations, SoFlo Radio, Progressive Blend, Radio or Not, of course, our Ustream home sweet home, or on our site, talkingleft.com. Of course, this show and all of our archive shows are always available for free on iTunes. You can subscribe, or on YouTube. You can check out the video feeds for free and subscribe as well. So wherever you are, however you choose to listen, whenever you choose to listen, Talking Left is always here.
It's omnipresent.
It is. And there are so many great shows on both of those networks, on all of those networks. Of course, radioornot.com. There's great shows there pretty much every night of the week. And daily, Nicole Sandler Show, which is also available on We Act Radio. But her full show is live 10 to noon Eastern, Monday through Thursday at radioornot.com. Lots of great shows also at SoFloRadio.com or SoFloRadio.net. But fair warning, many of them not safe for work. And, of course, amazing local original broadcasting at We Act Radio. David Schuster and Take Action News, The Richard Fowler Show, Matthew Filipowicz Show, who we just had on. There is progressive radio that is not mainstream, that is not corporate bought off, all over the place. So if you're looking for it, there are plenty of locations you can find that great programming.
As opposed to what I'm looking at on the monitor right here, the Sunday morning shows?
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
I don't even miss David Gregory since we started doing these Sundays.
I mean, we still watch because we're addicted.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, we DVR. We are political junkies. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
And being political junkies, we are always very aware of not just who's saying what, but the specific way it's being said. And there were two issues we caught during the debate that I'm not sure everybody was aware of. You know, the first one being in reference to Mitt Romney's tax plan. He has been out on the campaign trail and through these various debates repeatedly saying that he is not going to have the wealthy in this country pay less.
He said there's no tax cut for the wealthy.
Right.
And if anyone hasn't checked it out yet, I know it's been all over the internets, but go to RomneyTaxPlan.com.
Oh, yes, it's hilarious. An ad by the Democratic Party, and it's awesome. But Romney,
there's scamps there.
Yes. Many people may not have caught it in the last debate, but Romney said something just a little bit different. Instead of maintaining that he would not make the wealthy pay less, he has since changed his language, and he did it so slyly, so much like a snake oil salesman that many people may not have picked it up. Instead of saying he would not change the amount that the wealthy pay, he said he would not change the share of the overall tax burden that the wealthy pay, meaning he can lower the entire revenues from taxes for the entire country, bring down the whole amount, but as long as they're still paying the 60% that they do now, he's technically, very technically not lying.
Right. And now, if you put all of these statements together, they're not really incongruent.
Right.
But if you put them all together, I can actually explain Paul Ryan's tax plan with the numbers, and I can do it in less than 2 minutes.
Go for it.
All right. Now, Mitt Romney has said that there is no tax cut for the rich, in that they will still pay 60% of the overall revenue received by the federal government.
Correct.
However, he also said that he's going to lower the rates by 20%, get rid of loopholes. Okay, Now, if you put all that together with the fact that they're going to, what their main goal is to lower the rate of growth of government spending. The government has to grow at a certain rate as population and needs raise as they go up. When people retire, when there's more boomers, when there's more medical needs, when there's wars, when they have Medicare Part D, we all saw what that happens is you end up with a huge deficit. Government has to grow at a certain, I think it's right around 22, 23%. They want to tack that down to 19 or 20. So there's your gap. All right. So instead of the normal rate of growth, they want to cut that down. So that gap right there is lowering their taxes, and they're assuming a huge GDP growth.
Yes, like
in the
5%.
4 to 5%.
Which
that
is absurd.
means the top 1 and 2%, who we know over the last 30 years get the benefit of that overwhelmingly. They will be making a ton more money and still paying 60% of a slower growing federal government.
Exactly.
Does that make sense? So we'll have further economic division between the middle class, the lower classes, and the super wealthy.
Right.
So all of his statements make sense, but if you were to explain it that way, even on Fox News, people would say, wait a minute. So there it is. I think I did in less than 2 minutes.
Well, and it does also contradict some of the right-wing's general statements, which is to broaden the tax base, which, in other words, make poor people pay taxes. If more people are brought into the tax structure, not even getting into the fact that they can't afford new taxes, that they already are taxed through sales tax, property taxes, etc. If you're bringing more people in, I would be interested to see if the rich still paid 60%.
They will, because what they'll do is that's how he gets his middle class so-called tax cut, which will be, very small compared to, but they'll take that 20% from the 250 and lower and just spread it across to the lowest possible amount they can. Does that make sense? So the rich will get richer by that gap in between the growth of government and how much they're making. They're still just paying 60%. And then the cuts for the middle class, essentially, they're just going to spread it lower.
Well,
and that's broadening the tax base, right there.
The fact, first off, whenever Romney says middle class, remember that when he was asked about it, middle class to Romney was somebody making at least $100,000 to $250,000 a year. And I don't think most people...
He called that middle income.
Parsing words words.
We have to hold him to his words as best we can,
well,
as movable as they are.
And as smarmy and disgusting as his choice of words to say share as opposed to dollars, he also constantly cites these studies that prove his tax policy works. We already heard that 3 of these are blogs. One is a former Bush advisor, et cetera, that many of them can't be credited. And it has just come out in the last couple days that one of the reports he cites, a 2006 report from the Congress's Joint Committee on Taxation, basically states that in order to get to the tax rates that Romney is talking about, all middle-class tax breaks need to be eliminated. That includes personal exemptions, itemized deductions, personal credits, except for the earned income home credit, and all above-the-line adjustments. So essentially, all of those deductions that many real middle-class families rely on, home deductions, education, health care, those would be gone.
But they're assuming a more reasonable baseline in order to come up with that.
Right.
So I mean,
they're not assuming that we can grow the economy at 5.8% or whatever Romney
for lots of consecutive years, and actually that was in the Paul Ryan Fox News Sunday interview when he said famously, "It's too complicated for me to explain here," and then a few seconds later said, "Well, this is a baseline argument."
Right. It's the baseline growth.
Where all your assumptions, and dollar figures flow from. If the core number you're starting with in terms of growth is out of whack, then all the numbers following are equally, if not multiplied,
right,
or exacerbated out of whack.
Yeah, you get that game of operator, and things get more and more ridiculous the further down the line they get.
And skewed.
But this wasn't the only moment in the debate that Romney chose to parse his words so carefully as what I would feel to deceive the American public. He did it again when it came to the issue of contraceptives and women's rights to have insurance coverage for contraceptives. He was very specific in his statement. He said that he does not believe employers should be forced to provide coverage for contraceptives, but he believes that all women should have access to contraceptives. Well, as many people in America can tell you, we all have access to great health care. We can all walk in. But can we actually afford it? You know, if you need elective surgery, if you suddenly get struck with a heart attack, you have access to amazing cardiologists and specialists that could really, really impact your care. But can you afford them? Or would you be seen in an emergency room or an urgent care center and likely be given an aspirin and sent home? He did this specifically when it came to women's issues so that he can stand on both sides of the argument. He can say that making employers cover contraceptives, which, first of all, is a non-truth to begin with, is an attack on religious freedoms, while at the same time saying he believes women should have access to contraceptives. Shane, you had a great analogy on this.
Yes. I have access to a Ferrari.
But?
I'm not getting a Ferrari anytime soon.
Exactly.
Now, I would say, well, that's ridiculous. Contraceptives are $60, $100 a month. A Ferrari is $250,000 or whatever it is. But when you are living so close to the edge where if you spend that extra $60, you will not pay your rent and you'll be on the streets.
Well, and I can tell you
that cost is insurmountable.
And I can tell you that $60 to $80 to $100 would be a great deal for contraceptives without, the birth control pills without insurance. And the places that low-income women could go and receive these services, like Planned Parenthood and other nonprofit organizations, are under attack as well. So with all of the constant harping against abortion, you think that they would be out there handing birth control pills out like candy.
You would think.
But I guess that's counterintuitive.
Yeah. And you know what? There's one other one of those carefully worded things, and I have it pulled up real quick here, where he talks about energy independence. Did you catch this? He's been doing this a lot.
North American energy. Yeah, he always slips that North American.
And even here, he forgot about it and had to bring it back in.
If we do what I'm planning on doing, which is getting us energy independent, for North America energy independence.
North America.
I mean,
it used to constantly be American independence, but then it's, we're pushing for that Canadian pipeline. That's right, foreign companies to come and pollute our lands, air, and water.
I just love the gap in there, though. That
if we do what I'm planning on doing, which is getting us energy independent.
Wait for it.
North America energy independence.
The one point that's never discussed in this whole Keystone argument, there are several states that have simply said, no, you're not running a pipeline full of tar sands oil through our lands. Yeah. And the companies building this project have not found an alternate route. This project is on hold at the corporation's level until they get authorization from somewhere to build this pipeline. It is a straw man argument somewhat on both sides. The project can't be built if states say, no, you're not going to build it on our land. They can't simply, build the pipeline up through space. So it's a straw man argument.
These are the tenthers arguing that they're going to do this. So instead of states' rights, they're going contrary to it. But it's very interesting if you look at Romney's energy plan. His energy plan is to give all of the energy, the federal government, to strip the federal government of any oversight, any permitting, having each state deal with their own energy their own way, the way they want to. And it seems that there's a number of states that say the way we're going to deal with Canadian energy is to not let this pipeline through. So how does he square that circle that it's up to the states in my energy plan, but I'm going to put the pipeline through your state anyways?
They only like states' rights when they can use them to discriminate. That's pretty much what it stands for. Well, we have lots more to talk about. We're going to get into the next debate for just a few minutes before we speak with David Bender, the political director of Progressive Voices. Go and check out their site during the break, progressivevoices.com, and download their app. I think it's only 99 cents, Progressive Voices app, where you can listen to all your favorite shows and all your favorite stations. So we're going to figure out what's going to be covered in this next debate, Boca Raton, Florida, for just a few minutes before we get him on. We'll be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano, right here on We Act Radio.
reflects the drama of the human experience, and isn't that the essence of art?
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at BigBrothersBigSisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
Breast health awareness is critical for all women, particularly African Americans, because we have an increased risk of dying from breast cancer compared to women of other backgrounds. At U of M, I'm doing research here and with women in Ghana to look for an inherited link that makes African and African American women susceptible to a more aggressive type of cancer. Finding this link, I believe, will make new treatments possible. But right now, making sure that you are properly screened is our best protection.
With experts like Dr. Lisa Newman, the University of Michigan Health System is a leader in cancer care. When you call our free Cancer Answer line at 800-865-1125, an oncology nurse will answer any questions you might have about the prevention, screening, and treatment of breast cancer and other forms of cancer. All calls are confidential. Call 800-865-1125 or visit uofmhealth.org/Cancer Answer line.
We're working to help everyone enjoy longer, healthier lives.
That's the Michigan difference.
Hey there, Matthew Filipowicz here, host of the creatively titled Matthew Filipowicz Show, which, by the way, you can hear every single Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on 1480 AM We Act Radio. Now, I'm going to be honest with you people. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I like talking to smart people who are smarter than me, some of the smartest, funniest, most badass progressives out there. People like Glenn Greenwald, Naomi Klein, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, Jamie Kilstein, Allison Kilkenny, Alan Grayson, Jeremy Scahill, Jim Hightower, and more. That's right, I said more. Don't believe me? Well, tune into the Matthew Filipowicz Show every single Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. for some of the best in liberal talk, news, comedy, and interviews right here on 1480 AM We Act Radio.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at We Act Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast D.C.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Thank you wherever you are checking out the show. We appreciate it sincerely. We're going to be speaking with David Bender, the political director of Progressive Voices, who also has an amazing history and understanding of the political arena and how things play out. He joined us a couple weeks ago on this show to talk about what would be the first debate, the upcoming debate at the time. And he called the results of that debate so precisely, it's almost crazy. I urge anybody to go back and listen to the podcasts or check out the old YouTube video, but he essentially predicted nearly exactly what happened in that debate, that Romney would win it, the media would go nuts, that polls would swing a certain way, and then Obama would have a better performance in the second debate. That's why we want to talk to him about this next debate coming on Monday, which is focused on foreign policy.
Seriously, we can listen to David today and then skip watching the debate on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. He'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. And there's some issues that I would really like to see discussed at this debate. Number one on my list is the drone war, which I don't think is going to be covered. Shane, you think any chance we'll see that?
Well, I think it may. I think it may. Bob Schieffer, it may.
Okay. Do you think?
But I like I said in the first segment, I think it's going to be no. I bomb more.
Yeah.
I kill more terrorists. No, I'll kill more terrorists. You haven't done anything about Iran. Yeah, but I got bin Laden.
Well,
That's
I think
how it's going to go.
I think the Iran topic will come up, especially being Boca Raton, Florida, which has a very large Jewish population. I think it will specifically come up. It's a very elderly demographic, a lot of money down there, and it's an issue you see a lot. We just moved from there. It's an issue you see a lot on bumper stickers, on,
I think it's an issue across the entire United States because it's a scare tactic.
Oh, I agree with that.
The idea of Iran with a nuclear weapon scares everyone. I don't care.
Well, and I'm very interested on...
I understand they're couching it as a pro-Israel...
Right, but I'm very interested in how the subject comes up, because if you've listened to some of the smarter progressives out there, like Rachel Maddow, who explained that they're still very far away from developing a nuclear weapon, that they can have nuclear material.
But they're 4 years closer.
They're 4 years closer, because 4 years have elapsed.
I don't understand how we measure nuclear power in years.
Right.
I never saw that measure in physics. Did
Time
you?
goes by. I didn't know that. I didn't know that President Obama was quite capable of stopping time.
By the way, I'm actually 4 years closer too. I haven't started yet,
true.
but I am 4 years closer.
I have no.
Aren't
we all? I would love to see some real important international issues come up as well, like dying oceans, nuclear power, things that have an impact on those who don't get to vote, don't get to have any say in the matter of what that other country does. But we are going to come back with David Bender, and he's going to tell us exactly what's going to happen. So don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and we'll be right back with David Bender.
This is going to be fun. It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Let us now assess the state of the free press in this land of press freedom. The assessment? Pathetic. Not because of some government clampdown, but because of increasing press pusillanimity. The latest decline in hard-nosed investigative reporting is something called quote approval. It began with PR flax for public officials and political candidates, demanding that reporters agree, as a price of being granted an interview, to submit any quotes they intend to use from the interview to the interviewee's staff for approval. Thus, when Mr. Big blurts out something shocking, stupid, or actually newsworthy, Mr. Big's staff of bowdlerizers can tidy it up, or even erase it. Zzzt! It's gone, as though it was never uttered. It's not surprising that today's media-sensitive political figures, including Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, would demand this extraordinary editorial control over what comes out of their own mouths. But it's utterly despicable that media bosses and reporters have so gutlessly caved in to the demand. It reduces reporters from hard-nosed diggers to brown-nosed beggars, and it makes a mockery of our democracy's need for a free press. Yet many of America's major publications have meekly surrendered their reporters' freedom to this restraint. And now corporate executives have realized that, hey, we can emasculate the press too. Wall Street barons, Silicon Valley hotshots, and even the bosses of media conglomerates are demanding and getting, quote, approval for stories about their operations. This is Jim Hightower saying the media columnist for the New York Times admits that he's also succumbed to these demands. If it's a quote I feel I absolutely need, he recently wrote, I start negotiating. Never mind that it's his independence and journalistic integrity he's bargaining away.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. The day after the presidential debate, 6 former Sensata workers and their supporters were arrested as they occupied the lobby of the Bain Capital-owned company. Mitt Romney's Bain Capital is sending their jobs to China. The workers are calling on Romney to stop the outsourcing of their jobs by the company that made Romney wealthy. They have set up a tent city called Bainport in Freeport, Illinois, to protest the loss of their jobs to China, thanks to Romney's Bain Capital. The workers tried to deliver a petition to the plant manager. Tom Gallrap is one of the Sensata workers who will lose his job when Bain Capital ships his job to China the day after the election. Speaking in a video the workers produced, Gallrap urged voters not to vote for a Romney economy.
How anybody can go and vote for Mitt Romney is beyond me, because we have seen what this Romney economy looks like here.
Romney's binders full of women remark once again reveals a Romney disconnect and a problem with the truth. Jesse Russell reports.
Of everything Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney said on Tuesday, it was binders full of women that seems to be having the greatest impact, and not necessarily in a good way. Lilly Ledbetter, who gave her name to the equal pay legislation signed into law by President Barack Obama in 2009, said needing a binder full of women to find suitable women for administrative positions showed a disconnect.
That binder didn't help me at Goodyear, and it's not helping the women across this country, making 77 cents for every dollar a man gets. Now that might not sound like a lot, but over the course of a woman's lifetime, for the same work as men, women make on average $431,000 less than men. $400,000 could buy a house, put 2 kids through college, and pay for 7 more years of groceries.
The other problem Romney is facing is that he didn't actually request the binders full of women. The resumes of suggested women were offered to him by a group called Mass Gap, which had planned to provide the materials to whichever candidate won the gubernatorial election. Jesse Mermel is the former executive director of Mass Gap.
Mass Gap approached the campaigns of candidates Shannon O'Brien and Mitt Romney and asked them both to commit to 3 things. 1, to make best efforts to ensure that the number of women in appointed state positions is proportionate to the population of women in Massachusetts. 2, to select a transition team whose composition is proportionate to the women in the Commonwealth. And 3, to meet with Mass Gap representatives regularly during the appointments process. Both campaigns made a commitment to this process.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, on our We Act Radio debut. Joining us now is the one, the only, David Bender, the political director of ProgressiveVoices.com, who knows a thing or two about elections and politics. David, thank you for joining us on our terrestrial radio debut.
Well, congratulations. It's good that you're going right into the first part of the 20th century. Was Marconi on before me?
What was who?
Marconi. You always, when you start a radio show, you always, it's an honorific. You actually ask Marconi, you invented the radio. Please join us for our first show. No one told you that? You didn't get the memo?
I didn't get the memo. But what I did get is an amazing political analysis by you about the first debate. Could you have hit it any more out of the park?
Well, as I said to you afterwards, the notion that one could predict Romney would win, while satisfying from a predictive standpoint, was deeply unsatisfying from the result. And obviously the president listens to your show because he took my prediction to heart. I want to be clear. I predicted that the media would spin it as they did, that the president would perform as in such a lackluster fashion. And also, remember, these things are always about body language. And the president's body language showed that he didn't want to be there. Romney came to fight. The president came for a sort of theoretical discussion of policy numbers. Two men couldn't have approached it more differently. Obviously, also, the second debate reflected the president's understanding and ability to course correct. But what was baked in the cake, and what now appears to be true from the polls that have resulted after the second debate, we see the numbers. NBC, Wall Street Journal was out today. It is a national tie for the first time, although, again, national polls right at this juncture are only useful for trends. They mean nothing because, as Rob Reiner likes to say, these guys are running for president of Ohio.
Yeah, I've never heard that quote, but that is so telling about the way our political system is set up. What did you make of all of the Democratic excuses for the first debate? I heard some doozies, including that he had altitude sickness. What's your take on that? Did you have an opinion there?
There are no excuses. And after the second debate, when Democrats, there is a maxim that says that when Republicans get bad news, they shoot the messenger. When Democrats get bad news, they shoot themselves. And I think it held. I think that's exactly what we saw. We went from let's talk about the president's next term and who's going to put on the Supreme Court after the convention to it's the end of the world and the Mayan calendar has just moved up to November. There has to be a rational middle ground, and unfortunately, because Republicans really don't think, and I don't want to include all Republicans, but certainly a significant plurality of both the leadership and the electorate simply follow the talking point. And the truth is irrelevant to them. We, on the other hand, are hamstrung by those pesky little facts. And the fact is, the president did not do well. There was no way of looking at that and seeing anything else. Why? I don't really care anymore. I care only that what we have in these remaining 18 days, I guess it's 18 now, is... And that's even a misnomer. Let me say something that has finally occurred to me after 40 years of doing this. In the last two presidential cycles, particularly in 2008, we have seen a phenomenon that can only be called election month. Early voting started in Nevada yesterday. In many of the swing states, people have been voting for weeks. There's a lot of analysis of how The president seems to be up in early voting. There's, in Iowa significantly. In Wisconsin, only 6% of early voted. A third of early voted in Iowa. The election started already.
Right.
And anyone who talks about election day anymore is also driving a horse and buggy. We are now in a world where we have been voting for a while. It kicks in Florida next week, or I think a week from today, this coming Saturday. And all that tells us is that the ups and downs that we've seen and everyone waiting for an October surprise, well, the October surprise has to happen in September now because we're in the middle of elections. And what I am hoping is that people who are listening to this show are going to not gloat about and revel in the president's comeback in the second debate or look at tomorrow night's debate and say, well, now he's got it. This is a don't gloat, vote time. We have there's no moment here, and I think if there's any good thing that came out of the Denver debacle is that it took away any sense of the inevitability of re-election.
Yeah.
That's the silver lining.
It's an important point. Maybe it took away some, it doesn't matter, there's no chance he can lose voters that wouldn't otherwise go out and get active. In regards to this upcoming debate Monday, what is your take on it? Because of what you just said, the people are already voting. Theoretically, somebody could vote the next day based off what they see in one of these debates. But do you think that that's likely? Are those type of voters watching and paying attention?
Absolutely. And if it is a similar debate, which is what I expect, first off, remember, Mitt Romney has nothing but preparation going back now 7 years. To call him a businessman is to say, it is a true statement only if your business is CEO of Mitt Romney for X Incorporated.
Yeah.
He is a professional political candidate. What I would like, and of course this is the visceral, I would like the president to look at him and say, Governor, you've only held elective office for one term. You could not run for re-election because you left Massachusetts at 65% disapproval of the job you did the one time you had a job. If you're so proud of your record, if you were such a good governor, why didn't you run for re-election?
I think that's a great question
to get asked. But to answer yours, I do think that tomorrow night we're going to see, it's interesting, people are going to underestimate Romney again. They're going to say he knows nothing about foreign policy. He screwed up the Libya question badly at the last debate. In many respects, those lowered expectations are going to serve him well. He simply needs to appear competent. That means he can lie completely and be wrong, but it is wrong and strong, as Bill Clinton says, over weak and right. And the president has to, the body language, the optics, if the president not only uses strong language, I got bin Laden, but uses it and diminishes Romney in doing it, makes Romney look like who he is, which is a used car salesman, and I would not buy a used car from that man, then in fact, that's what we'll see, and we'll see an effective debate for Barack Obama. But don't be surprised if you hear Romney bring up something that nobody has talked about, not Benghazi, not China, something else out of complete right field. He doesn't go anywhere near left field, and that's what may well be the Romney surprise.
He's going to have to
know about what's going on in Myanmar, something.
Right, he's going to have to catch Obama off guard, especially on foreign policy, because Romney has such limited experience there, and we all know he's got such a great reputation overseas. So,
Well,
but he has John Bolton.
And Paul Ryan had the temerity to say that America's reputation overseas is collapsing everywhere. But Paul Ryan, the one thing that makes Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney a great match set is that both of them lie absolutely without shame.
Well, it's just as you said, strong and wrong. The Republican meme is to lie often and repeat it enough that people believe that you just couldn't simply lie about an issue so important. But yet they do.
Yep, but they do. And let me say, this thing is definitely winnable. It is absolutely important for people not to get disheartened again, to look at what remains of election month all the way through November 6th, and know that if we keep doing what we're doing, and doing it in Ohio and Iowa and in Nevada, Wisconsin very important now, Colorado important. I'm hoping Pennsylvania not important. I still think it's that place that the Republican dreams go to die. But the polls are closer. But we can do it. It can and must be done. This isn't an option. This is the next 25 years of everybody's life, because the next president will appoint 2 or 3 members to the Supreme Court. We either lock in John Roberts for a generation, or we take back the Constitution from these people.
Well, David Bender, you have never failed us on a political prediction, and I got to say that I'm the most hopeful after what you just said, that this is winnable and we can do it.
I think I will say this. I talked to someone in Ohio late last night, and the Ohio ground game is amazing, and he was incredibly heartened by what he had just arrived in Ohio to stay there through Election Day. So my prediction is we are going to take Ohio. So I'm going out on a limb here. It's not a guarantee of a win, but that's the one prediction I'll do on your first terrestrial show. But we got to work at it. It's not a given. It's not in the bag. No one should take that as a let's have a party for the next 18 days.
Yeah, I'm hoping that all of this Romney leading in the polls and all of these Secretary of States throughout the country trying to keep people from voting is going to push the vote even more. People have a tendency to want what they can't have or want what they think people are taking away from them, and I really hope that that's what we see as a result of these voter suppression tactics. But David Bender, you are so brilliant and so wonderful to take time with us. We really, really appreciate it, and we respect and admire everything you do.
Well, and I appreciate you guys. I wish you the best of luck from your first show forward. Break a leg and break right wing legs while you're at it. And tune in this week to Tune In Radio, because the Progressive Voices channel is going to launch, and there may be a little something called the David Bender Show on the Progressive Voices channel starting this week.
Yay! That's awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. That is the best news I've had all morning.
Tune In Radio. You can get it on your computer, on your app, and we will go from there, and you will come and join me on my show.
Absolutely, and we will put all the links up and tweet it out like crazy to make sure everybody goes and downloads that and purchases the Progressive Voices app. It's a bargain.
I will send you the news as soon as I have the start date. It's going to be sometime this week.
Awesome. David Bender,
right.
That's so exciting.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
David Bender.
I am so excited.
I am too. It doesn't get better than Bender.
Yeah.
We love him. He is somebody.
They should call his show Crystal Ball.
Yeah, Crystal Ball with David Bender.
Yeah, or I know I can predict the future. Kreskin or something.
He really
does.
Like
a serious one.
He really, really knows these election politics and everything so well.
He also doesn't, even though David Bender is a progressive, he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No.
Which is really great. Sometimes you get a progressive talker who, no matter what, will try to steer, spin. David will say exactly how it's going to be, what to take from it, how to move forward. So love him. He's great.
Well, that was an awesome interview. If you missed any portion of this show, of course, you can download it on iTunes just about an hour or so after the show, and you can check out the video on YouTube. Thanks again to everybody who's checking us out on our new spot on We Act Radio, or maybe one of our online stations, radioornot.com, SoFlo Radio, Progressive Blend Radio, or, hey, downloading the iTunes podcast. We've got lots more in store this morning, so don't go anywhere. This is me, Danielle, and Shano, and you're listening to Talking Left on We Act Radio.
Holy crap! We'll have more on these new developments after this. It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Bill Maher, you're here in Miami on Friday night. You're doing a show at the Fillmore at the Jackie Gleason Theater. They just renamed this theater the Fillmore. And they put up a couple of psychedelic posters. So I guess...
Was it the theater Jackie did his TV show from?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What I hear they did is put up 2 of those old Bill Graham posters and renamed it.
Yeah, I can't think of 2 different icons of show business.
Yeah, really.
Bill Graham and Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, why they just didn't play up the Jackie Gleason aspect, I don't know. But then again, this is South Florida.
Right. Okay.
Welcome to it.
I feel warned.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at RadioOrNot.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than Ken.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
You know that the ice cream scoop has the power to make a child smile, and that by slowing us down, the traffic light can keep us going. You know that the golf tee brings friends together, that the mailbox keeps them connected. You know that the cataract laser helps you look to the future, while the pacemaker ensures that there's a future to be seen. You know that the lawnmower, the clothes dryer, and the elevator make life easier, that the blood bank makes life possible. You know that these things we count on every day started as ideas. But did you know all these ideas came from the minds of African Americans? Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Please visit uncf.org or call 1-800-332-UNCF. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
The most important online radio station.
It's easier than ever to listen to SoFlo. On the air and everywhere. On any computer, any mobile device, iPhone, iTouch, and anywhere you are, just hit SoFloRadio.com. Tell your friends about South Florida's radio network, SoFloRadio.com.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Proud to be broadcasting on We Act Radio 1480 AM WPWC in Washington, D.C.
And Radio or Not.
And Radio or Not and SoFlo Radio. Yes, we are very excited everywhere we are. And we appreciate you wherever you're checking us out. So thanks so much for listening. Shane.
What?
Some early voting results are showing some really great indications. I think maybe David Bender could be on to something. Well, so far, Obama in early voting, according to Reuters, if I can talk this morning. I'm getting all excited about these numbers.
It could be a rout.
Yes. Obama leads Romney 59% to 31% in early voting. That's a substantial margin.
And it also explains why the Republicans have tried so hard in the states where they control the Secretary of State to suppress early voting.
Yeah, and we have
But it
seen,
is good news.
It is great news, and hopefully it's
and all those
indicative.
Democrats will have a chance to vote again then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and even pull up all their dead relatives and vote for them.
Oh, yeah.
It really is great news, and we hope that trend continues throughout the rest of the election month that David Bender just called it. It really is a strong sign for Obama, and it's a strong sign for this country, as we were just talking about Supreme Court justices and Supreme Court nominees.
It's also good because people have taken this ID thing to heart, saying, well, if there are going to be any problems, I'd rather have them early because come November 7th, it's too late. So I'd rather know ahead of time what documentation I'm going to need at the polls. So I'm going to do this early.
Yep.
I mean, you and I are voting early.
Yeah, because we
just moved, and we registered as soon as we moved, but we want to make sure everything is in line. There's no ID requirements in our state, but...
Well, speaking of ID, one thing that I have noticed in doing some research on this subject that most people aren't aware of, a form of ID that's actually listed as acceptable on many of these states' sites, including Florida, for instance, is a credit card, a credit or debit card.
Really?
So, although you may not have a photo ID, you may have a credit card, a debit card, an EBT card.
That has your name on it.
And they cannot challenge you. It's listed on their website by the Secretary of State of Florida, for instance, that is an acceptable form of identification.
But make sure you check in with your...
Right, absolutely. Check the state.
I don't want anyone showing up with a credit card and saying, oh, here I am, and then that state not have that.
Right. Check with your state. But I know in Florida, it is listed on the website as an acceptable form of ID. And there's a great new hashtag on Twitter by a company called, or an organization, called Election Protection. If you're experiencing a problem at the polls, you can now tweet it out. Take a picture of, excessively long lines. Take a picture of people intimidating voters, or describe a situation where your vote may have been improperly challenged, and you can use hashtag EP for election protection and your state abbreviation. Wow. So in Florida, it would be hashtag EPFL and then describe the problem.
That's like, so everyone who has a phone, internet access, and a camera in it, essentially is a poll watcher now.
Absolutely. And there will be people monitoring this feed throughout the election cycle and giving you, the knowledge you need to make sure your vote gets counted.
That is nonpartisan.
Yes, absolutely. I don't care what way you vote.
Fantastic.
I want your vote to be counted.
No doubt.
So just as a side note there that we recently found out about and wanted to share that news with you. But all of this great news should be exciting. It should mean that your vote will count no matter what. But there are reasons that some of us need to still be concerned. And we're going to talk about those in the next segment. Something every American voter should really be aware of. So, yes, we're making leeway. The Justice Department is protecting our vote in many states, but the fight is not over yet. So don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about this more in just a few minutes on Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano, right here on We Act Radio.
It's Thursday, October 18, 2012.
So he's got the oil and gas part, but he doesn't have the clean energy part.
I want to make sure we use our oil, our coal, our gas, our nuclear, our renewables.
The second presidential debate, debunking and fact-checking on energy. Plus,
having an energy conversation without talking about climate is like talking about smoking and not talking about cancer.
A no-show at the debate, climate change.
All of that and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
This has not been Mr. Oil or Mr. Gas or Mr. Coal.
Speaking of which, where's Mr. Freeze?
I'll be back.
Oh yeah, there he is. This is your Green News Report.
The Iceman cometh.
Okay, Des, my cold persists, so my apologies for that. But another interesting debate this week, and right off the bat, it was all about energy and drilling and oil and more oil.
Oh, indeed. The candidates hit hard and heavy on energy at the second presidential town hall debate at Hofstra University.
Yeah, but no talk about climate change once again.
Nope, absolutely nothing, but we'll have more on that in a moment. Of course, there was lots of misleading stats and outright false claims. Now, there are too many to cover all of them right here, so please check out our website, greennews.bradblog.com, for a full energy-specific fact check and debunking. First, the very premise of the first question about how the administration can lower gas prices is just wrong. It's a fact that the price of oil is set on the global market, and there is almost nothing that any president can do to affect the price of gas. Obama knows this, and so does Governor Romney. But instead, they made it into a contest for who loves fossil fuels more.
We still continue to open up new areas for drilling. We continue to make it a priority for us to go after natural gas.
More drilling, more permits and licenses. We're going to bring that pipeline in from Canada.
We're actually drilling more on public lands. We made the largest investment in clean coal technology.
I don't think anyone really believes that you're a person who's going to be pushing for oil and gas and coal. I will fight for oil, coal, and natural gas.
I'm all for pipelines. I'm all for oil production.
And both Obama and Romney pandered on gas prices, pretending that more drilling will have an effect on lowering gas prices. That's just not true. Romney's also just plain wrong that drilling on public lands is down. Fact checkers say that Romney was cherry-picking statistics. Drilling is actually higher on average on public lands now than during the Bush administration. Plus, neither one of them mentioned solar and wind projects on public lands.
And there's been, in fact, a huge increase in wind projects on federal lands. 0 projects on federal lands before Obama took office to, I think, 16 different projects now.
Yes, 16 different solar projects in just the last 4 years. Obama also pointed out that major difference on federal investment in the U.S. clean energy industry. You know, and our investment right now is already paltry compared to China and Germany.
So he's got the oil and gas part, but he doesn't have the clean energy part. And if we are only thinking about tomorrow or the next day and not thinking about 10 years from now, we're not going to control our own economic future. Because China, Germany, they're making these investments. And I'm not going to cede those jobs of the future to those countries. I expect those new energy sources to be built right here in the United States.
Now, Romney says he cares about renewable energy.
I want to make sure we use our oil, our coal, our gas, our nuclear, our renewables. I believe very much in our renewable capabilities. Ethanol, wind, solar will be an important part of our energy mix.
But Romney has panned clean energy jobs and the clean energy industry before.
We all like wind and solar, but you can't drive a car with a windmill on it.
And his stated policies and white papers call for eliminating federal investment in clean energy, including the crucial wind energy production tax credit that's set to expire at the end of this year. And Romney keeps billions in taxpayer subsidies for oil. And then there was Romney's bogus accusations on the decline of coal in the U.S. Power companies are driving that by switching to cheaper, more profitable natural gas. That's the free market at work. Not at the debate was Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein.
The one candidate who had no problem mentioning the word climate.
Climate is in meltdown.
Yes, she has a true progressive agenda on climate change and clean energy, and she was actually arrested outside the debate forum for trying to get in.
How dare her, a presidential candidate on 85% of the country's ballots, trying to participate in the presidential debate?
I know, it's crazy. Also not at the debate, climate change. I think MSNBC's Chris Hayes said it best.
Having an energy conversation without talking about climate is like talking about smoking and not talking about cancer. You can't talk about it unless you talk about what the stakes are for the climate. Who is the more pro-coal candidate is talking about who is going to most hastily speed our headlong flight of disaster.
Poll after poll shows that Americans are finally grasping the connection between global warming and extreme weather events, and that climate change is a winning campaign wedge issue. Yet they ignore it.
For more on our headlong flight of disaster, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. While you're there, please consider purchasing a copy of Greg Palast's Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, along with his Election Files DVD. That's our new premium at bradblog.com, and we rely on you, not corporations or foundations, to stay on your public airwaves. From bradblog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns.
CNN, ESPN, ABC, BCB, TNT, but mostly BS.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Yes, it will. Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. On our debut on We Act Radio 1480 AM WPWC. Just a moment ago, we were discussing the great lead Obama has in the polls so far in early voting. According to Reuters, 59% to Romney's 31%, which is a very large margin when it comes to election results. However, there's some other interesting information that may concern you just a bit more. As they say, so goes Ohio, goes the nation. And there's more than one tactic at work fighting us from successfully winning Ohio. First, we have good old Secretary of State there, John Husted, who, despite court order, will continue to block early voting.
Now, how is he doing it now? Because the Supreme Court has said, go away.
He is still limiting. He was told by the state Supreme Court that he was not allowed to remove the 3 days of early voting prior to election days.
He appealed to the Supreme Court, referred to the court, they declined.
They declined to hear his appeal.
So therefore, the Ohio State Supreme Court ruling stands. You can't limit voting in those 3 days.
Right.
So
However,
what's he doing now?
He is limiting early voting hours on those crucial days from regular hours, which are usually 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now they are 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, 1 to 5 p.m. on Sunday, and 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Monday, the very day before election, to 2 p.m., because many people get out of work by 2 p.m., and they don't have to be in the office by 8 or anything.
Office or the restaurant they
I'm
cook
using,
at. Or,
right.
Yeah, that's really the people who are working 50, 60 hours a week at an hourly job can't afford to take the time off. It's kind of like, but it's the same thing the Republicans do in the Senate they keep the Senate in session so that the president can't have any recess appointments, but they just gavel in, gavel out. They're in session. They're not doing anything. It's kind of like we're open from 8 o'clock to 8:01. So the Supreme Court did not put forward any guidelines in terms of the number of hours.
No, and here's the thing: even if this is challenged, the case will most likely not be heard before Election Day.
Right. And this was the guy who famously said that all these rules need to be set well ahead of time so there's no problem, there's no confusion, that the voting process goes, he's completely abandoned that.
Well, I'm sure it's just a coincidence that all of these early voting numbers are heavily weighed in favor of Obama, and all of these Republicans throughout the country are only trying to limit early voting and only trying to worry about voter ID, which is statistically shown to hurt Democrats much more than Republicans, as many low-income voters and senior citizens would typically vote Democratic. And students.
Well, this is something it will be interesting to see what the outcome is and whether or not this litigation is going to continue after the election.
But if
I could see another, and not in the same way that Florida went down, but all kinds of vote challenges, voter ID challenges after the election to whether or not how the ballots are tallied, but whether or not certain ones are tallied.
Well, it gets worse.
Uh-oh.
not only do we have, government officials blocking people from the polls or limiting the chances that they can actually take the time to get there, now we find out Mitt Romney and his buddies are actually invested in the company that owns the voting machines.
Specifically Ohio ones.
Specifically Ohio ones, although they are also used throughout the country. But primarily, they're used in Ohio. They're called HART machines, H-A-R-T. And they are owned by Hart Intercivic, which is majority funded.
Owned.
Thank you. By HIG Capital, which is essentially, this ties back to Romney, his wife, his son, and his brother as being the major investors through an investment fund called Solomir. So you can see how they set up this step-by-step process to make it difficult to figure out. However...
who uncovered this?
I believe Bob Fitrakis, Harvey Wasserman, and... Gary Bello. At least that's who these articles are by.
That takes some work to get through all those.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Filings because they.
I mean, just think of how complicated it is to say.
Right.
It's essentially, just to quote the article, because they've done such an excellent job explaining it far better than I could. Through a closely held equity fund called Solomir, Mitt Romney, his wife, son, and brother are major investors in an investment firm called HIG Capital. HIG Capital, in turn, holds a majority share and 3 out of the 5 board members of Hart Intercivic, which is the company that owns the notoriously faulty electronic voting machines that count ballots in Ohio.
So if there are questions about those machines, you can bet that board of directors is going to claim all kinds. I mean, they already do this. They claim proprietary.
Yes.
That the battle will be even stronger.
That's why they can't show how these machines work, is because it's proprietary information, and they're so worried about people stealing their information, but they don't give a damn if anybody steals your vote.
I like that line.
Well, not only that, these companies are so intertwined that a third of HIG's entire leadership had previously worked at Bain Capital. So these companies are intertwined. They are two peas in a pod. They are essentially one and the same, just going by a different name. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. And this company, Solomir, which invests in HIG Capital, which owns the voting machines, was founded by Tag Romney and Spencer Zwick, Z-W-I-C-K, which is Romney's campaign finance chair.
Wow.
Yeah.
The tangled web they've woven.
Oh, and this was reported, I think, originally by Lee Fong. This Lee Fong cites this in The Nation. There's so much information here, it's hard to boil it down to a source, but...
Well, they make it's intentionally complicated.
Of course.
Because if it said X voting machine company CEO Mitt Romney, people will be going, what? Are you kidding me?
And I don't want to hear, a lot of people have said, well, this is a blind trust. It's a blind trust that happens to be founded by Mitt Romney's son.
And
how blind is that?
Controlled by his attorney.
Right.
And so if you were to ever
this
ask...
isn't the same...
If you were to ever ask... Now, we have to take him at his word that there's nothing illegal going on.
No, we don't.
But, well, okay. Okay, we don't. But if we were to, we can't even inquire into that because any of the communications between the person who runs the blind trust and Mitt Romney has attorney-client privilege.
Right, but this isn't even the same blind trust that is ran by Romney's attorney. This
So
is
many
not.
blind trusts
This is
over the
not the
time.
blind trust that invests in the Caymans and China and all those overseas bank accounts. That's that blind trust. This is a completely different company. Solomir is founded by Tag Romney and Spencer Zwick. And their public web presence has mysteriously, poof, been blocked. So you can't even see a list of the partners within that company.
But they must have public filings as Secretary of State wherever they're incorporated.
That's how Lee Fang and the rest of these people discovered this connection.
Maybe then one of the first bills to bring up is the Corporation Privacy Act where you can't get all the public disclosures of secretaries of state anymore.
Well, we can all say that Romney has lied, has deceived the American people, et cetera, et cetera. But this is outright the possibility of stealing the election like we have never seen in this country before. You add this to the CEOs coercing employees to vote and donate and support certain candidates, Mitt Romney, and now you find out that in the most important state historically in the presidential election, Romney owns the voting machines. I mean, that's what this boils down to. We can go through firm by firm by firm by firm, but Romney and his buddies own the voting machines.
Or even, it's not even the ownership that's the issue, is how much influence does he have over the people who operate these machines.
Well, just remember.
And we're not saying, I'm unwilling to say that they're messing with the voting machines. We'll let Brad and do the investigation, and when we get evidence, then, but it is concerning that one candidate would have control over how the election outcome is determined.
Well, I think it's quite interesting that these are the same exact voting machines that switched 300,000 votes in Ohio from John Kerry to George W. Bush between 12:20 and 2 a.m. on election night. These are the same votes that flipped it for Bush in 2004. Same election machines, same voting machines. And was Romney invested in them then?
Do we know?
We don't know. We don't know. We don't have dates. These articles do not have dates as to when these companies were founded. But we know now that Romney owns these very same voting machines. Makes you a little nervous, doesn't it?
The whole thing has, even when the polls were highly towards Obama, it was one of those things I remember saying to you, like, it would be really easy to say he's got X percentage chance of winning if all the votes were counted correctly by hand in public, etc. But it adds a whole nother layer of uncertainty, and it's so funny the Republicans are so against uncertainty, except when it comes to this.
Well, I just think it's really interesting that they care so much about the election that they want to make sure every low-income voter has a photo ID to prove that they have a right to vote, yet they don't give a damn that one of the candidates owns the voting machines. If that's not partisan, what is? This story should be on the front page of every newspaper in the country. It should be on every major and local news network. This is saying that I don't care who you support. If President Obama was stealing the election, wouldn't you be pissed off about it too?
Or have the ability to
Right.
possibly.
I would be pissed off. So despite the fact that early voting numbers are doing great in this country, despite the fact that...
How do we... I have a question, and I don't know the answer to this. How are they counting these? Is these like exit polls?
Exit polls done by Reuters.
That even scares me more.
Yeah. Because what did we hear? What did we hear in previous years?
Yeah,
the exit polls were wrong.
Right. So
yeah,
no time to get complacent.
Absolutely not. People need to be out there. They need to be active. They need to be making sure that they vote. Everyone they know votes, and that they don't allow people to be challenged illegally. It is voter discrimination. It is against everything this country was founded on and everything we stand for. And it's the one way that you have a voice in this country. It's the most important thing there could be. And this story needs to be trending on Twitter, needs to be being posted on Facebook. Any Republican friend you have should see this as well. How do they feel about one candidate owning the election? So we're going to be coming back in just a few minutes to have some fun, talk about the Al Smith dinner, get some laughs before we speak with Comedy Jesus, John Fugelsang, about his great new show on current television, So That Happened. Don't go anywhere. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, on We Act Radio, radioornot.com, SoFlo Radio. We're everywhere. Stick around.
Everyone expected just a piece of fluff, but we wanted to do something important. Issue stuff.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
It's our last errand today, Jimmy. Just need to pick up some light bulbs.
Whoa, there's so many. Did Grandma tell you which ones to buy?
No, but check out the label on this package. It'll help us find the right bulbs.
Does it really matter?
Well, sure. The new light bulbs use a lot less energy, so we save money on our electric bill by using an energy-saving incandescent, CFL, or LED.
How about this bulb?
Let's see. We need to replace the 60-watt bulbs in our bedside lamps. That one is 800 lumens, so it should do the trick.
I've never heard of lumens.
Lumens tell us how bright the light is. The more lumens, the brighter the bulb.
You know, Grandpa, you're a pretty bright guy.
Yeah, you're pretty smart yourself, Jimmy.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. That's EnergySavers.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Energy.
You may be hearing about people having trouble making mortgage payments and risking losing their homes. Many of them just aren't aware of the options that can prevent foreclosure. There are many options available to homeowners, such as repayment and forbearance plans, loan modifications, and even refinancing. Where does someone go for help? They should talk directly with their lender or a qualified HUD-approved counseling agency. Both can provide helpful information without charging a fee. According to PMI Mortgage Insurance Company, it's not a good idea to pay for services that you can get for free from a lender or a qualified nonprofit counseling agency. To learn more, visit homesafepmi.com or call HUD at 1-800-569-4287 for a counseling agency near you. That's 1-800-569-4287. This message is brought to you by PMI, supporting sustainable home ownership that strengthens communities.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at We Act Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the ARC. The ARC is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The ARC is also home to the ARC Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the ARC, so stop by and see them. The ARC, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the ARC's website, www.thearcdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The ARC, part of Southeast D.C.
Hello, my name is Antonio Ford from A Plus Fitness. I've been studying foods, nutrition, and the anatomy of the body for well over 23 years. One thing about an animal-based diet is it kills people in every bite. It kills you by restricting blood and oxygen from flowing freely throughout your arteries, thus causing all kinds of life-threatening health problems and issues. If you want the blueprint for healthy eating, stay tuned to We Act Radio for more information, or contact us at aplus.fitness@yahoo.com. Again, that's aplus.fitness@yahoo.com, or give us a call at area code 202-903-6323. Remember, it's one bite at a time.
Welcome back to Talking Left. Wow, if you weren't awake yet, you are now from that music. Good morning.
I waited until 11:23 at least.
Yeah, thank you.
Eastern.
Yeah, thank you. We are going to talk about the Al Smith dinner in just a few minutes with John Fugelsang, but I can't help but wonder if Fox News is still talking about whether or not Obama called
acts of terror.
Acts of Benghazi an act of terror.
I would think that Fox News Sunday is still, because they didn't have a shot at this one yet, at Candy Crowley.
Right.
So you have to, you have not heard that dissected well until you have Bill Kristol's input on this.
Exactly, because that's everything the analysis was missing.
Yes, because we already had Brits the other night.
If anybody hasn't heard this clip, just in case, Can we play, of course, clip 8 from the debate clips?
Governor, if you want to reply just quickly to this, please.
I certainly do. I think it's interesting. The president just said something which is that on the day after the attack, he went in the Rose Garden and said that this was an act of terror. That's what I said. You said in the Rose Garden, the day after the attack, it was an act of terror. It was not a spontaneous demonstration. Is that what you're saying?
Please proceed, Governor.
I want to make sure we get that for the record, because it took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror.
Get the transcript.
He did, in fact, sir. So let me call it an act of terror.
Can you say that a little louder, Candy?
Can you say that a little louder, Candy? One of my favorite lines from the debate.
So they went crazy.
They went a little
and we knew
insane.
as soon as it happened that was going to be the first thing.
Yes.
You know, so we watched a little bit of the MSNBC coverage afterwards to make sure that Chris Matthews was okay, and
yes,
you know, that weren't any events going on that, you know.
And it was very interesting once we flipped into Fox how quickly they were trying to spin this. First, they said no, he didn't. He didn't say it. He didn't say it. He absolutely didn't say it. And then they found the tape of him saying it.
No acts of terror will ever shake the resolve of this great nation, alter that character, or eclipse the light of the values that we stand for. Today we mourn for more Americans who represent the very best of the United States of America.
Yep, he said it. But after having to admit that he did say it, then he's talking about September 11th, 2001. Now, I just listened to that, Shane. You just listened to it.
This is for more.
In the same sentence, he's directly
the
referencing...
statement is about Benghazi.
Right,
yeah.
He's directly referencing that statement.
Yeah, semantics about that. Then what did it switch to?
Then he was talking just about terror in general.
Right.
And I believe now it's that he said terror, but he wasn't talking about terrorism. Wow.
He didn't say the
that's the only ism that Fox likes.
And capitalism.
They don't care for any of the other isms. You know, socialism, communism, all of them are bad isms. But terrorism, that one you apparently need to be specific on.
Right. Well, and the thing is we were thinking about this.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, understandably that they are full bore for the Republican Party, for Mitt Romney, to get Romney in the White House, so they're going to attack. But this one was different.
Yeah, this one was... I've never seen them spin so fast.
And so hard and so viscerally. And it's because I really think this. Think about it. You're Fox News. You know, you have this mindset. You're sitting there, either you're brainwashed or you're just a fear lie merchant from the right.
Right.
And I will say that flat out. And so you're watching your network, the Fox News network, that usually has, 3 ultra conservatives and 1 moderate, and they call that fair and balanced. On their air at about 4 after 10 p.m. Eastern, Fox News was fact-checked on their own air.
They didn't like that so much.
They were fact-checked because they were the ones spinning the lie that it took 2 weeks. They were fact-checked, and they couldn't say a thing about it. They didn't have Sean Hannity there to yell out, no, he didn't.
Exactly.
They had 30 minutes of air where they just went on, and it sat out there, and they were going nuts. Fox News was fact-checked.
They were furiously dialing Frank Luntz. Furiously. But they didn't care that Romney was called out on this.
I think they did, but they more cared that
that wasn't their issue. Their issue was that they had been putting out the meme that those words were never said. Now, this is a fault of theirs by specifying that the words themselves were never said. They could have spun it all day long in the disgusting way they usually do with, just what he meant, what he was referring to. They could have done that, but they stuck to the words, and they got called out on it, and it was delightful. I hope everybody else caught that. We are going to come back with the one and only comedy Jesus, John Fugelsang, to talk about the debates and, of course, his great new show, So That Happened, on Current Television. Don't go anywhere. This is Danielle and Shano, and you're listening to Talking Left. Stick around.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and you're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
And now for some happy talk, by which I mean a non-corporate, little d democratic, and altogether pleasurable economic development that's spreading across our country. In a word, beer. More specifically, craft breweries are flourishing from Maine to Oregon, with happy hopheads in town after town now able to boast of their own local, unique, zesty, and fun batch of suds. While Anheuser-Busch, now owned by a German conglomerate, and Miller Coors, partially owned by Canadians, still dominate America's beer market, sales of the nondescript national brands have soured in recent years. But innovative small-batch hometown yeast wranglers have tapped a burgeoning market of brewski lovers who are reaching for the real gusto. Since 2004, craft beers have doubled their share of the U.S. market. Some 250 upstart breweries opened last year alone, bringing their total number to nearly 2,000. This has been a true populist economic phenomenon. Consumers and artisans have found each other and spontaneously created an alternative, locally based economy that helps sustain themselves and their community, rather than having their money siphoned out by faraway profit takers. Of course, the big boys are slyly trying to sink their own taps into the craft success of the small guys. Budweiser and Miller, for example, are now marketing pretend craft beers, having bought such once local brands as Chicago's Goose Island and Wisconsin's Leinenkugel. Unabashed by this consumer deception, however, a Miller spokesman sniffed, "We don't concern ourselves with what someone else defines as a craft brewer." Wow, sounds like Miller's man quaffed one too many mugs of a genuine local beer from San Diego called Arrogant Bastard. This is Jim Hightower saying, when in doubt about whether a local beer is really local, ask the locals.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. AFL-CIO President Rich Trumka says the choice between President Obama and Mitt Romney is a stark contrast for working families. Trumka says Romney is advocating policies he perfected at Bain Capital that would hollow out the middle class, outsource jobs, and give even more tax breaks for the top 2% while making working families pay for them. Trumka says despite Romney's sudden debate flip from severe conservative to moderate Mitt, we've seen him dismiss half the country behind closed doors while sneering at people who work hard every day and struggle to get by. Organized labor is in high get-out-the-vote gear in key battleground states. The AFL-CIO and its Working America affiliate, AFSCME and SEIU, are some of the biggest labor players with aggressive ground games. The American Federation of Teachers is launching a multi-state campaign bus tour today with stops in Ohio, Florida, and northeastern states. AFT is calling the tour Your Vote, Your Right, Their Future. Larry Gibson of Kayford Mountain, West Virginia, is considered the father of the movement to stop mountaintop removal mining in Appalachia. He fought that practice for a quarter century until he died September 9th of a heart attack while working around his cabin atop the mountain. There was a folk festival in his honor in Kayford on October 13th. People there cited his courageous environmental stand against coal and his heartfelt concern for his family, friends, and neighbors, including the miners who beat him up, shot his dog, and threatened to kill him because they feared his campaign would cost them their jobs. Melinda Tuhus reports.
I know I've got that stone that was hewed out of my
Larry Gibson founded the Keeper of the Mountains Foundation in 2003 to preserve the remaining 50 acres of his ancestral 300 acres of land, most of which his family members had been swindled out of by unscrupulous land companies, which leased the property to coal companies. A short walk from his mountaintop home, which he described as almost heaven, a giant mountaintop removal site blasted hundreds of feet off the mountain, leaving a moonscape behind. Gibson left West Virginia to work in the auto industry in Ohio for 20 years. Chuck Nelson worked in underground mines for 20 years and was a close friend of Gibson.
And as bad as it was when he grew up, when he returned, he was just devastated about what, the coal companies was doing to the mountains and to his homeland. After he seen what was happening to it, he started speaking out, and this was like over 25 years ago, talking about mountaintop removal and how they blow the tops literally off the mountain and dump the overburden down into the valleys and just destroying community after community.
Melinda Tuhus, Workers Independent News, Cayford Mountain, West Virginia.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
We take care of our own, wherever this flag's flown. We take care of our own.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are so pleased to be joined by one of our favorite people on this entire planet, John Fugelsang, host of the awesome new show on Current TV, So That Happened. John, thank you so much for taking time with us on such a busy day. John?
Yeah,
John.
can you hear me? I'm right here.
There you are. Hey, John, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Well, we adore you, so of course we would want you on our terrestrial radio debut. Of course, you can check out John's Twitter feed, which is hilarious, at John Fugelsang, and check out Current's site for the new show at current.com/groups/John Fugelsang. They may want to tighten that up a little bit, John.
I make it a little wordier. I think it was, we're celebrating George McGovern today. Of course, George McGovern was the guy who said the longer the title, the less important job.
Well, they want to make people work for it because it's that damn good.
Well, congratulations on the show. As a long-time fan of you guys and what you do, I'm looking forward to hearing this one and seeing it grow and evolve.
Oh, well, thank you very much. John, so many people call you the comedy Jesus or ecclesiastical mook, but we know you're so much more than that. However, I had to get your take on religious zealot Billy Graham's big move to take Mormonism off the list of cults for his church. What did you take of that?
Well, Billy Graham's a very wealthy man, and Billy Graham wants a very wealthy tax cut. So it's in Billy Graham's interest. And who's an ambassador of a faith that he's always called a cult. And we're seeing a lot of that now. The very GOPs who in 1960 pledged they would never allow a Catholic to be president are now embracing a Mormon. I think if they knew more about the Mormon Church and if they knew more about things that he's actually done, that Governor Romney's actually done, like proxy baptisms, it might give them some pause, as well as if they think that, the Mormon Church, and we love our Mormon friends, but the faith does believe that the New Testament is part 2 of a trilogy, and, and that Jesus came here and lived here. I mean, with any religion, you have the challenge of separating the faith from the superstition, the belief from the religion. The connection with the God from the hang-ups of dead guys. And Mormonism's got a really rich history of really awful traditions with a lot of really nice people. So, I'm not surprised at all that Billy Graham took Mormonism off of his list of cults for the sake of personal convenience.
Well said. Did you happen to catch the Al Smith dinner or the joke attempts by Mitt Romney there?
Oh, I did. I thought Mitt Romney had the best joke of the night, actually. I thought he did really well. Normally at the Al Smith dinner, that's where you see people like George W. Bush and John McCain being really clever. They really save up all the good joke writers just for that one night, and I would hire the joke writers from that night for the rest of the campaign. But Mitt Romney in the white tie and tails saying it's nice for Ann and I to be able to, dress how we dress when we hang around the house was a great, great line, and I thought he did well.
I did think he did well overall. My curiosity, though, is normally in those type of events, if I understand correctly, a lot of the jokes are self-deprecating and joking about yourself and your own insecurities, which the only thing he really joked about himself seemed to be his lack of drinking alcohol. Did you have any take on that?
You know, I think that's something that Governor Romney should be proud of. I mean, when you look at him, the guy has had, he drinks no alcohol, he takes no caffeine, he's 65 years old, and he looks great.
Yeah.
So along with Paul Ryan, I would vote for them in a second to run my gym. If they were running to be president and vice president of my gym, they would get my vote.
That is such a great observation. I hadn't thought of that, but...
And keep in mind, it's not always about self-deprecation. Barack Obama had a funny line this year about how, Mitt is Governor Romney's middle name, and I wish I could use my middle name. But it was 4 years ago at the Al Smith dinner when candidate Obama said, a lot of you are accusing me of being born in a manger, and that is not true. I actually was born on the planet Krypton, and my father Jor-El sent me here. So, sometimes you can puff yourself up a bit in those speeches, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised. I think Mitt Romney had better comedic timing than I expected. However, I think Obama is much more comfortable and naturally able to joke.
Exactly. I think you're right.
They're still not as good as a John Fugelsang comedy act, but hey, it's not their day job.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's really been a great year to do political stand-up, and I know a lot of people are very, very sick of it, but I think that whoever wins this campaign is going to be a great season for more political stand-up. And for me, my dad was a history teacher, and I grew up really loving American politics and history. My first debate I ever watched was Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. Back in 1980, I was way too young to understand it, but my father was devotedly anti-Reagan as a Catholic and as a Franciscan, and as an anti-war guy, and as a pro-middle class guy, he was very anti-Reagan, and I think history proves him more right every day. But to me, as I got older, I knew I didn't want to be a history teacher like my dad, but I still had the passion, and so, being able to joke about this stuff is the only way I can handle it, and honestly, it really is, a very, very healthy alternative to all the years of therapy I can't afford.
Well, I know we have to let you go in just a second here. I just want to congratulate you on the awesome new show, So That Happened, on Current TV. Any plugs you want to make for next week, or what can we expect?
Yeah, thanks. Well, Current is really turning into a great piece of real estate, and I've really enjoyed working with them more than I have in any other news network. They have a really great lineup of all, real journalists, elected officials, and political comedians. I'm including Stephanie Miller and Joy Behar in the comedian category. It's a really healthy lineup. I've had a great time covering the conventions and the live debates with their staff. Tomorrow night I'll be back in New York with Vice President Gore and Governor Spitzer and Governor Granholm covering the final debate, and I highly recommend Current's coverage. Since they run viewer tweets throughout the debate, it's the one network where you can see yourself and get your own voice heard. And then we're launching a daily series next month that I'm very excited about, but until that happens, I told the folks at Current, you got to let me do something before the election. So I'm doing this Week in Review show on Fridays. It's called So That Happened, which is a line from David Mamet's State and Maine. And it's where we take the most irreverent look possible back at the week. We've had 3 episodes so far with some great guests. We've had Ed Asner, Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols, now John Lydon of PIL. Governor Jennifer Granholm has been on the show. We had Shelley Wright, the Nashville country star who came out as gay. She was just on our show this week.
Yep.
This coming week we're going to have Bill Press and Tom Green, and I hope to have an all-comedian panel very soon. So it's been really, really fun just, working out how we want the daily would be. And also Current has really let us do some really sharp commentaries. They don't do any censorship. I went in there this week with a monologue about the hypocrisy of our Republican friends who are president 11 years after they exploited the 9/11 attack to help the president. For so long, our Republican friends wouldn't allow any criticism of President Bush because we have to come together as a nation after this attack.
Yep.
So here's the logic. If 3,000 history that the president was warned about on our shores rally behind the president and cheer him, if 4 die overseas and multiple embassies were attacked, just impeach our president.
John, I'm not sure if we lost you there.
Here.
Okay. Well, I know you have to go, but I'm very excited about this week's show. We have it DVR'd, set to series record. We watch it every single Friday, and the thought of you being on daily is just almost more than I can get excited about. That's awesome. I'm going to be glued to the TV. So.
Once we're a daily show, I look forward to getting you guys there to be on one of our panels sometime.
Hey.
And I also want to do one more. Can I do one more plug?
Absolutely.
Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour is finally hitting New York City next Saturday at the Theater, October 27th, with Stephanie, Hal Sparks, the great Aisha Miller, and myself, with 2 very, very huge, wonderful, special celebrity guest stars that I'm not allowed to tell you. I really wish I could.
Well, we are very, very excited for you guys, and have fun on this debate coverage, and have fun at Sexy Liberal next week. Nobody deserves this show as much as you do, John. You are literally one of the nicest people I've ever met. So,
well, thank you. Listen, and the same to you guys, and good luck with the radio show. You guys are such passionate voices for intelligence and decency, and I think that's in very short supply. So I thank you for doing the Lord's work in your own godless way.
Thank you so much, John. Have a great weekend. We know you got to run. Thanks for taking time with us. Bye-bye. Literally one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life.
Period.
And
love him. Yeah, and the Sexy Liberal Show in New York City, it's so easy to get there from D.C.
Yeah, 2 hours on one of those fast trains. The bus
or
is
$20 on the bus is so worthwhile. We've had the privilege of going to a few of them, and they are hilariously funny. They're a great time. Everyone in the audience is so nice, and John, Hal, Stephanie we owe them so much.
Absolutely. And Aisha is hilarious. So whichever portion, some of these shows had Aisha, some of them had Hal. But a couple were lucky enough to have both. Every single comedy act is amazing, and it's current. It changes with each show. So even if you've gone before, there may still be tickets left. Go and check it out. It's one you won't want to miss in New York City.
Absolutely.
So. How much time do we have here?
Actually, we need to go to break.
We need to go to break. I thought we were going to have time to get into some Al Smith clips, but maybe we can play a couple when we get back. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. This is our radio debut on We Act Radio, 1480 AM, WPWC in Washington, D.C. We've got a few more minutes left in store, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Talking Left.
See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Ooh, I gotta say, that was fantastic.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nutjobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, and you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Tim Cormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Radio or not. And filterfreeradio.com.
People don't think critically anymore. Just to examine or critique the system, the culture, political assumptions, things that they see on TV. I mean, whatever happened to the saying, don't believe everything you see or hear?
Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to The Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Your view is not being represented in this country because all of our views have been corrupted by money in politics. Remember, 94% of the time, the candidate who raises the most money wins.
That's the fact that we need to drive home constantly. It's all about the money. Dylan Radigan, you rock.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime.
Fresh from their star-studded performance in Hollywood.
They drummed you right out of Hollywood.
The year's hottest political show, the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour, is finally coming to the city that never sleeps. New York.
So you come crawling back to Broadway. Well, Broadway doesn't go for booze and dope.
On October 27th, the eve of election 2012, the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour will take the stage at Broadway's world-famous Beacon Theater.
There is nothing like the thrill of doing a live show on Broadway.
Featuring John Fugelsang, Hal Sparks, Aisha Tyler,
Sexy lady,
and Stephanie Miller. For tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com or call 866-858-0008. Don't miss your one and only chance to see all the Sexy Liberal Comedy players live on one stage. That's the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour at the Beacon Theater.
I love New York. You know why? Because it's open all night.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
How high can you jump?
But you don't have to know every answer.
How many phone numbers are there?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
How do cell phones work?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
What's electricity?
They just need you.
What's the moon made of?
For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The most important online radio station.
It's easier than ever to listen to SoFlo. On the air and everywhere. On any computer, any mobile device, iPhone, iTouch, and anywhere you are, just hit SoFloRadio.com. Tell your friends about South Florida's radio network, SoFloRadio.com. Progressives across the country are taking action from Madison, Wisconsin to the Occupy movement. And now, Washington, D.C.'s newest talk radio station, We Act Radio. In this election year, Progressive Talk returns to our nation's capital. We Act Radio is proud to showcase the biggest names in Progressive Talk Radio, including Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Bill Press, Ed Schultz, Sam Cedar, and original live shows from our Anacostia studios. Take Action News with David Schuster, Speak Easy with Kamon Freeman and Ron Pinchback, and The Inside Scoop with Mark Levine. Available on your radio dial and on the web at weactradio.com. That's We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Truth is our product.
Yes, we can.
Welcome back to the last few minutes of We Act Radio, of Talking Left on We Act Radio. Can you say trying to do more than one thing at one time? Before the break, we were talking with John Fugelsang of Current TV's So That Happened, and we were discussing the Al Smith dinner. You really have to be a political nerd to be following the Al Smith dinner. But one of the biggest statements from the debate has carried over into Twitter and common discussion. It's clip 11 from the debate clips. Yes, see, I have my clip lists confused. Yeah, clip 11 from this is the one that really stuck out and kind of blew up the Twitterverse.
And so we took a concerted effort to go out and find women who had backgrounds that could be qualified to become members of our cabinet. I went to a number of women's groups and said, can you help us find folks? And they brought us whole binders full of women.
That, for some reason, was the most talked about phrase during the debate.
Well, just like Big Bird.
Yes.
It was an odd turn of phrase. And actually there was an article I read late last night about Romney's use of language. We were even joking about it a few nights ago. Yeah. It was like it's medieval. I've had occasion to meet with a fine lady woman from Columbus who wove a tale of woe, and so binders of women doesn't surprise me. I understand why people would find it weird.
Yeah, I understand why people will find it weird. I don't think it's the most important thing that we could be talking about from that debate. No. But I do think it had the funniest result, which is people started going to Amazon.com and commenting on an Avery 3-ring binder. I had a favorite there. among those comments that I hoped everybody got to see. This is from someone named Sabriel. Maybe it's just my women, but they don't seem to fit into the space I've designated for them in this binder. They keep sticking out over the edges, even getting away in some cases. I thought using clear glass ceiling page protectors would help, but it doesn't seem to slow them down anymore. I'm going to have to resort to using more severe 3-hole punching to keep my women in line, and maybe switch to the trap her, keep her. Yeah. Okay, I thought it was hilarious.
Especially the glass ceiling.
The glass ceiling and the trapper keeper. Come on.
Yeah, I heard the trapper keeper the next morning, although they didn't use the separating her.
Yeah. So, although that was funny, we were talking about the Al Smith dinner. Did you have a favorite joke from that event, Shane?
I do, yes.
Which one?
Win or lose, this is my last political campaign. So I'm trying to drink it all in. Unfortunately, Mayor Bloomberg will only let me have 16 ounces of it.
I have to say, there was one chuckly, I don't know, cardinal or priest or somebody. It was so funny. There was a very good laugher that was close to the microphone.
Obviously close to the microphone. Yeah. My favorite was the reference to the Republican National Convention, clip 4.
Thank you. Everyone, please take your seats. Otherwise, Clint Eastwood will yell at them.
You can use that in there.
Just the way Obama said it, it was awesome. And, John did prefer, his favorite Romney line was white tie around the
house.
house.
Al, you are right. A campaign can require a lot of wardrobe changes. Blue jeans in the morning, perhaps, suit for a lunch fundraiser, sport coat for dinner, but it's nice to finally relax and to wear what Ann and I wear around the house.
I'll give him credit for that one. That one was pretty good. The timing was was halfway decent. The one I think is the most relevant as we're going into the debate about foreign policy is clip 9. And although this may be a joke, I think it's entirely accurate.
Some of you guys remember, after my foreign trip in 2008, I was attacked as a celebrity because I was so popular with our allies overseas. And I have to say I'm impressed with how well Governor Romney has avoided that problem.
In other words, Romney has made a fool of himself, has pissed off foreign leaders already throughout the world. He's not even president yet, and he's managed to tarnish our image and offend leaders overseas. Is this really the man we want representing our country? Is being friendly and restoring our image throughout the world really a negative of Obama? We can list
they call it weakness.
We can list plenty negatives.
That's going to be, if you are interested in intoxication, the drinking word for Monday night should be weak or weakness.
Yes. Yes. What will the drinking game?
And if you want to stay completely sober, Bush.
Yeah, Bush will not be mentioned.
Although I have to say, we've already covered the debate at length, but that question about how are you different than George W. Bush was an enlightening question to ask.
Yes,
so
it certainly was.
Tomorrow night, and tune into Current tomorrow night to watch it.
Yes, and figure out what their hashtag is. I think it's a current debate, or we'll put it up with the blog post. But if you use that hashtag, your tweets can appear on television with John Fugelsang, Vice President Al Gore, and Jennifer Granholm.
Yeah, what a lineup, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't suck to have them reading what you say. So, anyhow, in these last couple minutes, we have some very big thank yous to go out this week. Of course, thanks to Nicole Sandler for allowing us to start this show and putting it on her network, radioornot.com. Big thanks to George Rodriguez of SoFlo Radio for helping us deal with some technical issues and as well supporting us and always being there when we need him. Big thanks, big, huge, gigantic thanks to Alex Lawson, Kimon Freeman, David Schuster, Pete Callahan, Rich Webster, everybody over at We Act Radio for taking a chance and letting us share their airwaves.
They are risk takers.
Yeah.
And if we can get through the next minute or so, their license is still intact.
Yes, we have not ruined it so far. Thanks to Progressive Blend Radio, Talk Radio 1. Of course, thanks to anybody who subscribes to the podcast or subscribes to the YouTube feed. We always offer it for free, but we appreciate your support. And the biggest thank you of all always goes out to the listeners. Thank you for being there, for allowing us to do what we do. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So join us next week on We Act Radio and all our other locations. We'll be back. Thanks so much for listening. This is Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano on We Act Radio.